I'll just do that, just because you look amazing. I appreciate it.
Do.
I do, and I'm so honored to be here. Thank you very much.
We're thrilled, and we'll have you say a few words once the meeting is called to order, if you so choose to. Okay, so I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Katie Albright, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Wonderful. Congratulations. You are very official. Yay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I am thrilled to be able to join this esteemed group of colleagues to support the children and families of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will officially turn to calling this meeting to order at 10:05. Jamie, will you please call the roll?
Katie Albright,
Here.
Jana Hazen,
Here.
Elsa Jimenez,
Present.
Jackie Majors,
Here.
Parker Major, Vivian Velasco Paz,
Here.
Giannina Perez,
Here.
Lori Russo.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we will have a special guest provide the land acknowledgement. Kim Knoll, it's wonderful to see you again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you all so much. I just had vocal cord surgery just last week, so please bear with me. It doesn't hurt, it just sounds very quiet. So I'm going to do the land acknowledgement, and I'm so happy to have been welcomed with you today. This is on behalf of the Tribal Child Care Association of California, and it's an honor to present this land acknowledgement. We understand and acknowledge our place on Native lands and are mindful of the past and present participation in colonial legacies. As an association comprised of tribal members and representatives that partners with more than 80 Native American tribes in California, we stand in solidarity with all Indigenous communities and strive for cultural consciousness, respect Indigenous practices, and take responsibility to amplify Indigenous voices. We acknowledge the pre-contact Indigenous population in California as one of the largest and most diverse in the Western Hemisphere that spoke over 300 Native American dialects and as many as 90 languages. We acknowledge that the culture and heritage of the entire state rests with the Indigenous people who have continuously lived upon this land since time immemorial. We recognize the historic discrimination and violence inflicted upon the Indigenous peoples in California and the Americas, including their forced removal from ancestral lands and the deliberate and systematic destruction of their communities and culture. We recognize how policies, systems, and structures continue to oppress and erase Indigenous peoples and their ability to remain in tribal communities on tribal lands and continue traditional practices with their tribes even today. There are currently over 109 federally recognized Native American tribes in California, and even more communities and tribal groups who are not currently federally recognized. California has the highest Native American population in the country, and Los Angeles and San Francisco have two of the largest urban Native American populations in the US. We make it our mission to support these resilient and resourceful communities by raising the voice of tribal nations to support equitable approaches for social services, policies, and practices through building relationships founded on greater consciousness of Native sovereignty and cultural rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim Null. We're just so appreciative that you've taken the time to be with us, and on behalf of all of us, just thank you for being here. And I hope, and I know Jackie's also been engaged with you, but just really excited about how we can continue partnering.
Thank you very much. I know I'll be seeing you guys soon, but should I log off and then log back on, Jackie, and maybe a few minutes log back on?
You can go off camera and you can stay on if you want. I know we're in webinar mode, so we won't see you if you log
Okay.
off.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll just wait for you to call me back on.
Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Thanks.
Okay, and we are also waiting for another one of our dear former commissioners, Myra, to join us so that we can give her an opportunity to say some parting words, some parting shots, and also just to have the time to say thank you to her as well. While we're waiting for that, I did want to just acknowledge, if you haven't seen, that we've pulled item 8, which is regarding the administration account guidelines, which we all know is an issue of utmost importance to us at the First Five State Commission. And I'm really grateful that Jackie and staff lifted it up and said, you know what, though, we need to stop and we need to take a little bit more time. We need to circle back with fiscal committee, because we also know that there's lots that we need to dig into so that they can have the time to thoughtfully think about it a little bit more and then present it to us. So just wanted to acknowledge that item 8 is no longer being discussed at this meeting. So as part of the process that we've decided in this new iteration, we're going to just go over what we hope to accomplish. So what are the goals for today? So briefly, for today's meetings, we'll hear about the revenue and fund accounts from Marcia Thomas. And then we're going to move on to the action items, which include the approval of a new vice chair, as well as the First Five Commission staff's request for approval of Commissioner Albright's assignment to subcommittees. And then in item 7, we will be asked to approve a new investment related to early childhood behavioral health. And we will break for a closed session during lunch, and then move into information items, which will include the annual report guidelines for fiscal year 23-24, a proposal to contract with a team of experts to evaluate the impact of First Five California's investments, as well as a presentation with the Children's Data Network on their proposal. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jackie to provide a quick overview on the logistics.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. King Chakuvi. So really happy to see you all and see all the names in the queue today. So thank you all for joining us. And I'd like to go over how we will quickly conduct the meeting today, including the facilitation of discussion among commissioners and public comment. First off, if anyone is having technical difficulties, please send an email to info@ccfc.ca.gov. That's info@ccfc.ca.gov. You have staff standing by who will immediately assist you. Commissioners, to eliminate background noise, it would be helpful if you could mute yourselves during presentations. Upon each agenda item, you will be able to provide feedback and ask questions. You can either use the raise hand function in the Zoom webinar or just physically raise your hand using your webcam so that the chair can call upon you to speak. Voting will be conducted in the same manner as our prior virtual meetings. Jamie Hastings will call for each commissioner's vote and record them. For the general public, the public will be muted during the meeting. The public will have various opportunities to provide public comment by using the raise hand function on the Zoom webinar. This will allow Jamie to identify who wants to speak and in which order. At that point, Jamie will call on the attendee and unmute their line in order to allow them to provide their public comment. In closing, again, if anybody is having technical difficulties, such as using the raise hand function, please send an email to info@ccfc.ca.gov. We have staff monitoring the account, so you should receive assistance right away. So unless there are any technical questions, we can continue on with the meeting.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Okay, I believe that Myra will be joining us very soon. And so I will continue until Jamie tells me. Now, conflict of interest. Please let me know if any agenda item presents or potentially may present a conflict of interest for you. Obtaining this information in advance will ensure that I can announce your non-participation in any aspect of that item in compliance with applicable laws. Does anyone want to state a conflict of interest at this time? Seeing some heads shaking and no one speaking up, I think we are good. And now, Jackie, back to you for your executive director report.
Great. Jamie, do we have a time frame on which Commissioner Alvarez was going to come?
Now.
Oh, now. So
One
I
minute.
don't
One
want.
minute.
I'm wondering if we should. If it's right now, I'm wondering if we should wait. Or
Do you want to give just the overview? Because I understand now you're going to have a slide, maybe tee up before you start it.
perfect. Okay. So I just wanted, if she was going to hop on right now, I just wanted to give like a few minutes. If that's not the case, we can continue on with the deck. So doing this a little bit differently. Traditionally, we have done it verbally for the time that I've been here. So we're moving back to a deck because we have different, different people process information differently. So with that said, staff are going to help drive the deck, if you will. So next slide. So this item will provide programmatic and administrative updates about key activities that staff have engaged in since January of the 2023 commission meeting. Program updates will include relevant highlights. And rather than just a summary of all staff work, they are now framed by the strategic priority areas as adopted by the strategic plan and the theory of change systems levers that we identified over the course of the last couple of years. Items that will be presented as action or information items later during this meeting are not included in this presentation. Next slide. So as a review, we just wanted to share with commissioners and refamiliarize you all with the following statements that help orient the work that we do as an organization, as a committee and a commission. And I know that you all have memorized your orientation onboarding binders, but wanted to definitely start with our mission statement adopted by the commission in 2019 to really kind of hone in on our work as systems change agents. I don't tend to read things, so I know that you all are already familiar with this. And not only is it part of our mission statement, it is actually part of our intent in our statute that I appreciate the chair always lifting up. And also our North Star, that we believe that trauma-informed, healing-centered, and culturally responsive systems will promote the safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments necessary to eliminate inequities and ensure healthy development for all children, which is how we measure, how we orient our work. And lastly, that we need to measure, right, what our progress in this. And I really appreciate the conversation that we had with Commissioner Albright recently, that we believe that all children 0 to 5 will have the SSNREs necessary to achieve this healthy development. And however, really kind of honing in on what does it mean? What does generational change mean? And so really looking forward to kind of the work ahead and everyone's thoughts on that. Next slide, please. Part of this is, again, just lifting up our strategic plan and theory of change adopted in July of 2021 that helps articulate and outline how First 5 California will support the early childhood system work and which modalities or system levers we will use to maximize our investments. So these, as some of you may recall, were identified as First 5 California's superpowers and what makes us special, considering all of the other advocates in this space, and what makes the children and families act unique. Specifically, our superpowers that we identified through the process of adopting our North Star is that we are advocates, we are conveners and connectors and catalysts, as well as broadcasters. So the theory is, if we do this thing, then these policymakers, these state programs, these agency leads, providers at the local level, or parents will then have a certain outcome. So we are going through a systemic and cultural and organizational change to really orient this. And part of this process is, I'm sure the discussion was had at the program and evaluation committee about how are we measuring impact. I know that Vice Chair Hazen has been, and Commissioner Jimenez have been part of this process from the beginning. So just wanted to reorient our work there. Next slide, please. And so before we get into our program updates, we wanted to share with you how we got to some of our current and future investments. In 2022, I'm really excited about this because I think this is a new way of operating, is that we work with Undersecretary Midgick and the Cal HHS and shared the following some of our considerations of investments for this current year. And you'll hear a little bit about these investments later, but it gives you an idea of some of the things there, not all of the things that we were trying to figure out how to best leverage our partnership with our state agency sisters, our sister agencies. Sorry about that, which include behavioral health, fatherhood, childcare, and our data systems. Next slide, please. And these slides will be publicly posted and shared with you afterward. So I'm sorry if I'm rushing through. This is our infamous status of investments and flowchart, also known as our Candyland map of funding investments. It's a copyright issue, so there's a copyright. It's Candyland. It's not. We don't own it. So, so wanted to share our status of the flowchart again, and just really this time there are pieces, if you will, along the charts. For example, fatherhood and newcomer support are still in developmental concept. We're trying to kind of figure out and gain more data as to what the right leverage right investment will be. And then as you move along today, you'll receive a funding request for behavioral health. And then you'll hear the P5 data landscape, which are both about a 25-year look back, as well as using the Strong Start Index. And you can as you go along the flow chart and the map, you can see where we are in implementing some programs. For example, we're managing projects. You all have heard about the Refugee Family Support Program, the KIT, Small County, etc. So this is just a little bit of a glimpse, a snapshot in time of where our projects are. But it's really great to have that visual, because I think a lot of people say, what are you doing all day long? So this is kind of gives you an idea of where we are in processes and operations. Next slide, please. So this is, you guys already have this in your binder, kind of the updates of everything that we have been talking about, but really wanted to lift up a few things that I think are of importance. Is that again, just really grateful for all of the hard work that staff have been putting into, not just since January, but I would say the last couple of years as we orient ourselves towards this new way and different way of doing work. There's been a lot of great work around beginning the work around the fatherhood initiative. I know that will be coming forth for an update in a few months. And I want to, there will be a media campaign update from the advisories a little bit later. And for me, I wanted to really lift up our partnerships with other state agencies. Specifically, yesterday, we had a really great home visiting coordination. And I don't know if staff are on, but I always mess up the acronym. So the Home Visiting Early Childhood Collaborative, which are a group of state agencies as well as local agencies, to begin to figure out how we really maximize our home visiting investments that have been just historical investments over the last couple of years. I'm excited to also share that the network, Sarah Crow, myself, as well as Stacy Lee from Children Now will be leading a working group, if you will, on systems change and how we can actually create a system that is impactful at that ground level. So really excited about that work. I know that we have released our home visiting coordination grants, and folks are at the local level are really busy working to orient to submit that, and it looks like funding will occur in July. So really excited about the hard work both at the local and state level, and appreciate conversations that we have been having with counties as well as the association around that work. We also wanted to lift up our, and that's something that we haven't necessarily kind of highlighted before because it's been just kind of part of our lifeblood, is that our First 5 network alignment work. So in April, I know that the chair and I have begun a conversation with Avo Makadasian, the executive director, as well as the president of the association, to uplift and better clarify the role of the First 5 network and how we can best partner together in really that movement to change, to create system change, both at that state and local level. Outside of that, in addition to that, I know that the chair had mentioned this issue about our admin account, but the admin account concern is actually housed within a bigger conversation about our declining revenue and what can we do as a network to have long-term sustainability over time. So I know that we've been part of those conversations before. Sarah Baches, Alex DiCaprio, as well as Dr. Williams have been part of those conversations earlier, and we're restarting those conversations again to see what might be feasible, considering the budget shortfalls that the state has on how we work together to lift priorities. The other thing that I also wanted to lift up is Pearls, which is actually our early literacy program. I know, Chair Perez, you were involved in this way before you are our chair. And so we are in the middle of actually thinking about how this might help leverage the $100 million investments that are in other state agencies. It wasn't part of the update, but I've been meeting with Greg Lucas, our state librarian, who is managing the Dolly Parton Imagination Library Administration, as well as California Department of Public Health and the WIC program. So have been connecting with them about how we might best leverage that work. So really excited about what might come, and they're just really great humans. We are also, as part of Pearls, we are going to the California Department of Education. As you all know, that I specifically represent our department or our agency on State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman's Literacy Task Force, and we are actually beginning to meet again about that. So lots of agency level leverage of our expertise and our brand, if you will. So that's just a little bit. I will pause there if there are any questions about the program updates before we move on to our next. It was a lot. Okay, seeing that they're just really, again, just excited and proud about the work that we all have done together, as well as sister agencies and at that local level. A couple per next slide, if that's okay, on personal updates. So the deputy director position in the Program Innovation and Evaluation Division has been re-advertised with a final filing date of tomorrow. So if there's anybody out there, or if you know of anybody who wants to apply, the final filing date is midnight tomorrow, Friday, April 21st. So staff are also working on next steps for the vacant administration positions for PEI, as the previous incumbents, Debbie Silverman, retired in November 2022, and Aaron Doobie transferred to the California Department of Education to start a new office. Staff are also working on the recruitment of the vacant information office position previously held for quite some time by Oscar Ramirez, who also retired in February of 2023. Yay, retirements. I'm so really grateful for everyone's work for First 5 California over the years. Staff is actually also, there's been an IT specialist position that's been open, and given kind of the state of affairs and administration and kind of how we are oriented, we are thinking about different ways to actually create efficiencies in our IT department. And so more to come there. We have to acknowledge that Riley Henderson, as you all know, took a promotional opportunity outside of state government in January 2023, and really just proud of how he grew here and what he's doing in a local public agency. So Joseph Chang was our AGPA in Contracts and Procurement Office, and he was on a limited term. And so as a retired annuitant, and his term ended in February of 2023. So he may come back depending on our needs, but at this point he is taking a little bit. I think he's traveling the world or doing things that retired people do. So really, really grateful for his contributions there. I also just want to mention that it wasn't necessary in your notes or here that you may be noticing a lot more emails from Jamie Hastings and Simon Marquez as we are actually uplifting a lot of our work with advisory committees have become more, I'm not gonna say that they weren't public before, but just public facing meetings, must adhere to the Bagley Key and a number of other things. The workload has shifted, and we are thinking about ways of expanding that work and support for the governance team. So we will probably be coming back with an update about what a governance office looks like and how to support kind of this new orientation of work. And as the cadence gets, as we figure out the cadence of these advisory committees, et cetera, et cetera. As part of that office, there was a commitment to doing a couple of manuals, all of that. But again, this is the internal work that we must do to actually ensure that we are running efficiently. So, and next slide, please. So is Earl here? So we are so proud to share with you a little bit of exciting news. Is she on? Where are you? Earl, is Earl on? Is she hiding? She's hiding. So we actually received an award for the Department of General Services. I know that since I've been here, the contracts department has been really working hard on efficiencies as we made major changes in fiscal and state government. And so it's, so they've been recognized for, we have been received the Agency of the Year Award and the Most Improved Award for Best Practices, Creativity, and Outstanding Achievements to advance the state's small business and disabled veterans business enterprise advocates. And state leadership for outstanding achievements in both these categories, which is so phenomenal considering, sometimes I look at contracts and I look at all of the DGS rules and go, oh my gosh, what is this? How do we get state government going? Just so proud of Earl Cardenas, Director of Contracts and Procurement Office, Eric Miao, John Dutra, Rick Espinoza, Joseph Chang, and others who were just part of just pouring into this and just receiving the success. So cheers to them. This is the first time in 25 years of existence that we've ever gotten this award. Again, this is not just similar sized agencies, this is all of state government. And then, like I said, it is for many of you who've worked with state government, it's really hard to navigate. And again, it looks like Earl is hiding. I said I was going to lift her up so she could share the award and all that. When she came in, we were meeting and she came in, she's like, Jackie, well, here's this thing. I'm like, what is that thing? Like, what is that piece of glass in your hand? I'm gonna put this thing in the cupboard outside. Hey, Earl. And so I wanted to just, this is Earl Cardenas, the woman behind the prize, but it was, really her team, the organization, they just put their head down and do the work. And just what phenomenal recognition for what you've done in moving the ship to make sure that we meet the needs of children and families. So thank you, Earl, for that. But no hiding. I want to celebrate you. So that's it. Thank you for being here, Earl.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you. Please let her know that we're very, very proud of her and excited, and thank the whole CPO team and all of you for creating this space for them, like you said, to get the work done. Jackie, I just want to thank you for the thoroughness and providing the deck. I know it was a request that Shane and I had made as well as part of exec team to really give us the ability to keep better track of all the work. And as I think everyone can appreciate, there's a lot going on. I did just very quickly, when you mentioned the personnel, is it possible for commissioners, and I don't know if you do a general just blast to get because I wasn't aware that there were these job openings. If there's a way for us to get, a heads up, these are coming down the pike and when the deadline is, so that if we know of good folks, we can send them your way too.
We'll make sure that we send it your way, especially the CAs that have open, that are open to everybody.
Perfect, thank you. And
And I
we'll have a chance, yes, and I was going to tee it up. We'll have a chance, I think, to go back on this. And thank you again. I do, because Myra's here and I know that she has other things that she needs to attend to. I do want to call Myra up and give her the floor to say a few words. And then if she doesn't mind, she'll let us know how much time she has. And then we want to say a few words as well.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's so great to see your faces. I miss you all already. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri right now at a health equity conference, and I literally get to catch a bus in order to get back to our site, which is why I have maybe like 10 minutes. They said 12:30, no one's here yet. So, but I wanted to have a few minutes because I literally have draft emails to each of you sharing my news that I have not sent. And I know you feel me. I know you do. So you'll get those emails because they are literally in my drafts folder. So as you all know, I resigned from the First 5 California Commission for the opportunity to serve on the Covered California board. And at first, I'm incredibly honored to have served on this commission and to have served alongside the commissioners that are here with us and the ones that have departed. I have learned so much from this opportunity. I'm incredibly grateful to the governor and to the governor's team for trusting me for the role, but I'm incredibly grateful for the people on this screen and that I've had the honor and fortune to work alongside, for all that I have learned from you and for the inspiration. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You all have come to these spaces with experiences, with stories, with perspectives that have made me not only a better champion for kids and families, but a better leader, a better mom, and a better colleague. And I sincerely am grateful to know you and to be a part of your community. And I also feel in my heart of hearts that this is work we do together, that the work for kids and families is not the responsibility of only the First 5 California Commission, it's the responsibility of so many others. And I'm carrying that heart and perspective and guidance that you provided into the Covered California space, recognizing the power that managed care plans have over the delivery of 5 million kids in Medi-Cal, of the influence of Covered California and the market power it has. How are we elevating the experiences of our most marginalized communities there? That is what I'm carrying with me and what you all have taught me. So I just wanted to really sincerely thank you for allowing me to learn from you, for being part of this space with you, and to continue to inspire me in the work that we're going to do together moving forward. So mil gracias, and you'll get my email soon, I promise.
Thank you so much, Myra. We so appreciate you. I'm going to cut my remarks to very short because I think you have a sense of all that I value you for, and I don't want to get teary-eyed. So thank you again for everything. I want to open it up to any other commissioner that wants to say a few words.
And I know we're short on time and you have a bus to catch. And, you know, as a busy working mom, you don't have to send us the email anymore because you've said all of the things. And everything you said, I want to just say right back to you. I think you have elevated the work and the experience. I can speak for myself, but probably for all of us. You are honest, you are authentic, you have kept it real in so many important ways. So really just heaps of gratitude to you, and looking forward to all of the ways we can continue working together to ensure that all of the kids and families that are most marginalized in California have their needs met and can really thrive. So thank you. And thank you for continuing to do the work.
And I'll just say really quickly, Myra, because Commissioner Hazen said everything I would have said, but I will miss having somebody who is authentic as me, saying the uncomfortable things, to challenge people to think differently and think broadly by our diverse California community. I wish you well. I still want my email, just being selfish, but I wish you all the best of luck. I know you're gonna just knock them dead in this new role.
Thank you, Jackie.
And just to build on that, Myra, I really appreciated the short time that you and I were together on the commission. And I really appreciate the fact that you were vocal and kept bringing us centered to, the needs of our families, particularly our low-income BIPOC communities, and really just elevating the need to look at the child as a whole, bringing forth, that we need to do what we can in terms of mental health services. And so it's wonderful to see now you joining Covered California. And I really do look forward to seeing how you help to transform that organization. So best of luck, and I'll miss you personally.
And to mirror what my fellow commissioners have said, it's been an honor to work with you. I think my time was even shorter than Elsa's, but what I was thinking the entire time you were talking is how lucky for Covered California and that program to have you. So go knock them dead.
Thank you, guys. I will miss you. Okay. I can't do emojis because we're limited on our capacity. So I'm just like,
Commissioner Alvarez, your bowl is coming. So I'm so grateful. I remember when I met you, when you came to Sacramento at the reception. I don't know if you recall that, but what a powerhouse you were then. And I actually am selfish. I know I'm going to continue to work with you. So it's not a goodbye to see you later, because we're going to get into all the good trouble for all the kids. So appreciate all of your service and the time that you served here. So
thank you, guys. Been an honor.
Thank you again, Myra. You know that you are just one of my most favorite people. I admire you as a mom. I admire you as a mentor in some ways. I admire you as somebody that we can just shake our heads and say, okay, let's just keep doing the work. So just thank you, Mohad, for all that you've done. Thank you for stepping up and serving in this position. I know you have so many things going on. So I'm just, like others said, I'm just truly grateful that you took the time to help us and to move us in a much better direction. So look forward to keeping the work going. And I know wherever you go, it's going to just be amazing, and everyone's going to be lucky to have you in their lives. So thank you with that.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor, guys. See you later.
Okay, see you.
Okay.
Bye. Okay. Thank you so much, Avo, for giving us that ability to kind of move with the agenda. I did want to also, Jackie, I wanted to allow Katie to have a few words, and that wasn't built in. So can we pause right here, if that's okay? If that would be indulgent, if Katie,
it's up to you, Chair Perez.
Okay, just wanted to flag that. And Katie, you're filling big shoes, but your shoes, I've heard, are quite big as well. So would love to give you the opportunity to say a few words.
Well, thank you. And that's what I was going to say. I feel like I'm filling very big shoes, and but maybe my shoes will be different. And I am so deeply honored to be on this commission. Just to share a little bit about myself, I have been in California for almost 30 years. I married an amazing person whose family is from Hawaii, and my family is from DC in Washington. And so California was the center of the country for us. And the grandparents wouldn't have us go one direction further. I have two children. They are both grown. My son is about to graduate from school in DC, and my daughter is a sophomore in college. And through it all, I deeply appreciate how hard it is to raise kids, to be part of a family, to understand what that looks like. And I also bring a great deal of privilege. And so I have devoted my career to working to dismantle systems of inequity, partner with community to think about how community can be an essential component of solutions, believe deeply in public-private partnerships, and the power of developing young brains and how we think about science in a different way, and how we really can foster families and understand the strength of families, and how we can create ultimately a better California. I have had the privilege of working with First Five when I worked at Preschool California in its founding year. Now it's Early Edge California, and so I know the unbelievably profound and transformational work of First Five, and the fact that I'm now part of it just gives me like a huge warm heart. I love the fact that the comments about Commissioner Alvarez were about authenticity and credibility and trust and partnership, and so I look forward to working with all of you in that same vein. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to just say a few words.
Thank
And
you,
I hope we
Katie.
get to see each other in person, or the next time when we do, just to spend more time building relationships and being together.
Thank you, Katie. That's the plan. We know where our team is thinking about how we can do more in person as well as out in the state of California in other locations. So I want to now turn it to our dear friend Avo, who had an amazing advocacy day yesterday, and I'm sure he'll share highlights. But just to also lift up what Jackie said is that the First Five California Commission as well as staff are very interested in continuing to grow the partnership with the association and with the locals, and to strengthen it in a way where we all feel like we are the network that the statute says that we are. So appreciate you helping us move that effort along, and look forward to keep having you push us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Perez, and good morning, commissioners. Yes, I just had one big update around Advocacy Day. That was yesterday, but before I jumped in, I also just wanted to share my congratulations to Commissioner Albright on this appointment, and looking forward to working with you. I also want to congratulate the entire CPO team. What a great recognition. Certainly a team that our counties work with on a daily basis. That was a great recognition to share there, Jackie. And yes, calling out our First Five Network conversations. We look forward to continuing those conversations and gaining better clarity on our network collaboration. So thank you for calling that out. As I mentioned, yesterday was Advocacy Day, and I want to thank the First Five California staff and commissioners who attended yesterday. Chair Perez, Commissioner Hazen, Commissioner Paz, Jackie, Angelo, Sara, and other teammates helped us prepare and were there. So just thank you for the support and collaboration yesterday. We kicked off the day with a gathering of 110 participants that included First Five staff from all over the state, commissioners, and other partners to get ready to meet with legislators. And we grounded the day by hearing from two parents that talked about what First Five means to them, and the value that First Fives have brought to them and their families. And then we heard from our association president, Kitty Lopez, and Chair Perez herself reminded us that First Fives are the ones who put early childhood on the map in California, and that we have equity on our side, we have children and families on our side, and it's up to us to lift up early childhood as a civil rights issue that it is. Then we also heard from Assembly Majority Leader Eloise Gomez-Reyes, who also reminded us that children can't advocate for themselves and that we must do it on their behalf. And even though that we're facing a budget challenge this year at the state level, it's critical that our leaders hear our voice, and all our representatives understand why we're doing what we're doing. So in all, by the numbers, we had, in addition to First Five California teammates, we had 45 out of 58 counties participating in Advocacy Day. We had over, as I mentioned, 110 participants and a total of 100 meetings with members. And so that is just the power of this network coming together on one day. And based on some of the initial feedback we heard from members and their staff, we were able to educate new members on the work and value of the First Five Network. We were able to reintroduce members to what we've been doing as a network and also thank them for their support and commitments to early childhood over the years. We were able to inform everyone of our declining revenue challenge and lend the opportunity to partner with us to figure that out. And then we also uplifted some critical bills and budget asks that are in front of us this year. So all in all, I thought it was a wonderful, like I said, display of commitment and collaboration across the entire network and uplifting these issues in a really tough budget year where we know our members have a lot coming at them from different sectors. So I would love to also, if that's my update, Chair Perez. I would also love to hear from commissioners like yourself and others who participated, and any feedback you have. We are all ears to hear how it went.
Thank you, Avo. I want to open up as well for Shana and Jackie and other staff who participated, and Vivian as well. But I thought it was, wonderful. I've never participated in your Advocacy Day. I can't wait for it to be virtual, or excuse me, to be in person. I think that's going to give another flavor. And I was also very excited that members or their staff were interested in actually going to visit. So I thought it was great that there was follow-up about, let's get you in front of a program, let's get you to meet constituents who are impacted by First Five. And I think that's going to be just a smarter way for them to truly understand what First Five is all about. So thank you again for leading that. Any other comments?
Yeah, I also just want to echo, what a great opportunity it was to raise awareness about some of the most urgent needs facing our kids and families. The one thing I would love to see next year, if possible, is engaging more families and telling their own stories and thinking about how we can empower them to speak on their own behalf. Because I think, to your point, Avo, right, we heard stories at the beginning, but in our individual meetings, we had to tell those stories instead of having those families tell the stories for themselves. But overall, I think, to me, it felt like a very successful day.
I'll just round out comments by we love partnering with you all on this event over the years. I think that just in different roles, and thank you. I think scheduling is was one of the most challenging, and you all took that on. Like, if anyone's ever created an Advocacy Day, oh my gosh, it's 121 folks plus. And they did a phenomenal job and just getting those, and just really appreciate the voice of the local commissions. And I had the privilege and honor actually having a parent who was also a commissioner, and she was able to uplift her voice and the impact of First Five. So I know that I echo Vice Chair Kazan's, like, more of that is, I'm like, okay, I'm just talking California, not really helpful. I'm going to pass it on to my local voice. So really appreciated that mix of voices.
Thank you. And then I'd also say just making sure that we're providing stipends or some sort of support for that, because I'm also mindful that, that it's in the middle of the day, having a parent do that with all the other things that they have going on. I just, want to consider that that's an option too. So, but we can follow up offline on more details of how we can support you, but you did a great job. Thank you and your staff. So we're going to now move to advisory committee updates. As you know, we now have many more advisory committees that are public facing, which we're very excited about. We also recognize and thank Jackie and the staff for all the work additional work that goes into that. And we want to be mindful of that. But we also want to give chairs of the subcommittees the opportunity to report out so that we have a way of funneling that information back to the larger commission. At this time, does any commissioner want to provide a report out for their committee?
I will report out. We met on the Public Policy Advisory Committee meeting was on April 12th, 2023. Present was Commissioners Risso, Perez, Jimenez, Mijic, and Velasco Paz. We met to review and discuss processes and protocols for the advisory committee to review federal and state budget proposals, legislation, and collaborative partnerships. Staff will provide requested protocols and procedures to conduct future advisory committee meetings. We've been invited, the First Five California staff has been invited to the California Department of Social Services series on learning sessions with various experts focusing on impacts of trauma on brain development and how this translates to trauma-informed care and trauma-informed systems. These learning sessions are related to the Complex Care Steering Committee meetings and the intensive technical assistance and strike team calls. The purpose of these learning sessions is to gain deeper understanding of how trauma impacts brain development and manifests complex behaviors and behavioral health needs, as well as what interventions, approaches, and models support healing. These discussions will spur further conversations about how the body's systems can respond to and support such healing. We're also in discussion on 0 to 5 early intervention strategies as possible partnership opportunities. First Five California's external and governmental affairs staff co-chairs the Child Youth Behavioral Health Initiative Equity Framework Group, which is finalizing the development of an equity framework toolkit that will serve to integrate equity into the activities of the overall initiative. First Five California staff also serves as an amplifying voice to communicate the Child Youth Behavioral Health Initiative developed by various health and human services agencies. First Five California EGA staff is engaging in discussions with the Office of Community Partnerships and Strategic Communication on how to continue working together to increase public awareness and outreach of pressing issues impacting families with young children. James Lindsay, First Five California Chief Counsel, requested the committee approve the assignment of a chair to the Public Policy Advisory Committee per the bylaws of the California Children and Families Act, and voila, Lori Risso was approved by members to chair the committee. And I apologize, I meant to start with good morning, everyone. So I'll end with good morning.
Thanks, Lori. Any other chair of a subcommittee? Jackie?
Yes, I'm happy to report. It looks like I have 2, and staff can stop me certainly if I don't need to do both, but this is all a little new. Program and Evaluation Advisory Committee, I think this was the first of its kind with this combined meeting. And at this meeting, we got a really thorough overview of the annual report. It looks beautiful, but there was also a lot of great data that Angelo shared with us. So we had an opportunity to sort of talk through that and hear that. I also think it's not in the notes that were provided for me, but I also think I was appointed or elected to chair of this committee. So this is all a little new too. So I'll be better next time in terms of reporting out. But again, just as a highlight with the annual report, the First Five team is still planning on doing some feedback sessions with the counties. And just really trying to build off of the data that they acquired in pulling this annual report together. I don't think you want me to go through all of these bullet points, so I just wanted to give the high level. But I think that we are going to be approving the annual report at this meeting. Yes. And yes, I think so. You guys will know. Okay, so that
it's listed as information for questions and then come back as
great. Great. Okay. So that's what we did there. Let's see. The staff was so great at pulling bullet points together, but they gave us too much credit of being able to read this in a short time. Let's see. They also talked briefly, and this is new to me because this is the part of the advisory group that was added from what I used to do in programs, but a little bit of discussion on the evaluation efforts. They had a brief discussion on the regional hubs evaluation efforts. And let's see. And just how they're going to partner going forward. To continue to work on evaluation to ensure our impact, and just a lot of other stuff. So I'm sure they will provide the information that we need, but that advisory committee had several of us on it. So certainly Commissioner Hazen, Rizzo, Velasco Paz, myself, were all present. And so that was the first meeting of its kind. And then, unless anybody else wants to speak on it, we had our Public Education and Outreach Advisory Committee on April 17th, just the other day. Rescue, the whole team was on. It has Myra Alvarez here as on February 28th, so I think this is a combined report out. But y'all, it was just me on this meeting with like 30 people, but no, it was fine. But it was great. The whole rescue team showed up from all over California. So it was really nice to see some of their work. They went over the Stronger Starts campaign. They shared with us a lot of results. They had a lot of slide decks that I hope are available to the commissioners at some point, just showing the impact, the impressions, the engagement. I learned a lot of new terms in terms of how we're evaluating some of the different mental health campaigns, or what are we calling some of the ACEs work that's going on there. A lot of conversation around the Dragon Song and the different iterations of that and how Californians are sort of interacting with that overall. I think they feel very strongly about the results that they're seeing so far. We did ask to just make sure that we are getting some real feedback from parents and childcare providers about some of the experiences, so we can continue to grow on that as the campaign continues to grow. Let's say they gave me 4 pages of this, so I'm really going off of my memory here. And the last thing I want to share with you, I just want to make sure it's on here for me to share. I'm so sorry, you guys. This was a lot. Jackie, am I not sharing?
We're not there yet.
Right.
I think I'm reading the other Jackie mind. I'm like,
okay, sounds good. I mean, I was at the meeting, so
it was a first meeting, kind of getting your feedback before we develop. Yeah,
sounds good. Sounds good. So overall, that's my report out on kind of 1.5 meetings.
Yeah, and there was no vote for chair, but we will. You're not going to be alone after a vote, an upcoming vote. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Majors, for that report out. Appreciate it.
And I can share the executive committee report at the request of the chair. Want to be, of course, deferential. The executive advisory committee met with senior staff leaders on March 23rd and April 3rd. The draft meeting agenda was reviewed at one of those meetings. We provided feedback on that. And then again, at the second meeting on April 18th, staff provided a high-level overview of the final agenda. And so really want to sort of lift up and highlight the intentionality and work happening behind the scenes to really craft meaningful agendas. And I would even go further to say experiences, because we recognize, and I'll speak on my behalf and maybe the chairs as well, that nearly half of our commissioners have joined in the last year. And we've been working really hard to ensure that throughout our meetings, we're intentionally slowing down to provide clarity around meeting goals. These are little things, but if you look at the top of your agenda, right, we've articulated goals. What are we trying to do here? What are those really critical few objectives we're trying to accomplish, and to call that out with transparency. We also want to make sure that we're providing that historic context for new commissioners, and even for some of us who've been around for a long time, because even though staff are in this day in and day out, we're meeting quarterly, and sometimes we don't remember all the details. And we also want to make sure that through these meetings, we're explaining certain processes and procedures to make sure we can all get up to speed quickly and work efficiently and impactfully together. And then the other thing that Jackie Wong mentioned is that there's so much work happening behind the scenes, and we don't always sort of take the time to say out loud all of that critical work that's happening. And so hopefully you'll notice that staff are continuing to bring those things to light for all of us at these meetings.
Thank you, Shayna. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And I know we're going to have a discussion soon about vice chair, but I've just appreciated your vice chair leadership. So with that, I realize as well, I want to make sure if there's any comments from commissioners on anything, not just necessarily the subcommittee groups, but if there is any comments on any other item. Seeing none at this time, I wanted to now turn it over to Jackie, who will bring Kim Nall back up and provide the partner presentation. Thank you.
We're so excited to bring back Kim Nall from the Tribal Child Care Association of California. I've gotten to know her over the couple of years we've been here, and her tribal leaders and her board, and always, I feel like I always cry at all your events and all our meetings, because it's just so grounded in the work and who we are, and people and the children and communities, and just grateful for your transparency, your call to action of how government can best partner with you all. And without further ado, just so excited about your presentation, which is, I have to acknowledge, exec committee, like let's add some flavor about like the stories of the people that we work with and in partnership with. And you are one of our first presentations. Just grateful. Without further introduction is Kim Nall, who you met a little bit earlier.
Thank you for the slides. Whoever is doing that behind the scenes, you guys are amazing. Again, I apologize for my voice. I have a voice disorder, and they did a minor surgery last week. And so it causes this quietness, so bear with me. I wanted to just really thank you, Jackie and Commission, for the opportunity to be here, and just the fact that we're one of your first guests as a community partner is really an incredible honor, and thank you so much. Jackie has been a participant and a partner, as First 5 California is, with the Tribal Child Care Association of California at our quarterly roundtable meetings. And to have leadership from the state at the table says a lot about how important this work is and how valued the relationship is. So thank you for that. I'm the executive director of the Tribal Child Care Association of California, and I have been in that role for the last year. It's been pretty much exactly a year this week now. Prior to that, I was a co-founder of TCCAC in 2006. In 2006, we as tribal child care administrators came together to discuss equity, inclusion, and diversity and alignment with the state. And it was right around the time when Race to the Top came to California, and tribal child care and early learning and care was not included in that plan. So we, at that point in time, with the help of Region 9, the Office of Child Care, ACF, OCC, supported us in reaching out to state leaders to be able to have conversations about alignment and access for tribal child care and early learning in the state. When we found that we also weren't going to be included in the tribal quality improvement, or the QRIS, we decided to create our own tribal quality improvement system. That took us several years. And so we came together quarterly as tribal child care administrators with state partners, and we created our own tribal child care standards for sovereign nations, which is has been in print and is used within the tribal child care community. So that is a little bit of background. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I've actually been in the field of child care and early learning since 1988. I was very young. I was started in the field, and the very first center that I worked at, I eventually came to own in 1995. And so as an owner and a director of my own center, I really didn't realize how privileged I was to have access. I went to work at that point in time. We sold the center in 2002. And in 2003, I was asked by Colusa Indian Community Council to go on as basically a consultant to open a center for them on the reservation. I stayed there until I came to work a year ago for TCCAC. So I was the director of the Tribal Child Care Center, and we had an early Head Start Child Care partnership, as well as state contracts for infant and toddler care, and our own early Head Start federal grant as well. So our program was quite robust and successful, and still is today. I'm not sure if I have power to the slides, but otherwise, next slide, please. Is it me?
Jamie, are you advancing the slides, or Simon?
Thank you. We already did the land acknowledgement, but this is it in print. So next slide, please. And just a little bit about who we are for the Tribal Child Care Association. We're comprised of individuals who work for tribal lead agencies, grantees administrating the Child Care and Development Block Grant and/or tribal child development programs. Right now, we represent over 80% of the federally recognized tribes in California, and those tribal CCDF dollars also reach about 80% of those tribes. There are 109 federally recognized tribes in California. As I mentioned, it's the most in the nation, and we have over 80 of those tribes working with TCCAC. So a lot of the programs operate their own centers, and they also might have what is called relative care, which is a voucher certificate, or work with family child care homes. And they also work with state licensed programs as well. So every single tribe that has tribal CCDF has, as a sovereign nation, their own grant. They write their own grant and they regulate that through their tribes. TCCAC has joined together to provide professional support and technical assistance with tribes and child care programs, and to unify tribal voices to educate tribal, federal, state, and local governments and agencies as to the strength and existence of tribal child care programs. Part of the work that we get to do, and we're so privileged to do, is with the support of the impact funds. Those have been very supportive of the work we do. Next slide, please. Our mission is that TCCAC is to sustain and maintain high quality, culturally relevant child care programs through the unification of tribal voices, and by providing support and sharing knowledge and educating tribes, federal, state, and local governments and agencies. Next slide, please. So through our work, these are our baskets of focus, and we are working on right now a revised partnership policy system change and strategic planning, and as well as access for quality tribal early care and education, and as sustainability of an organized development. We just became a 501c3 this last August. So we're excited about that. And so these are our primary focus of our work of our strategic plan. Next slide, please. Our North Star, which is a lot of the work that we've done through the the funds that we received through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation in the state of California, along with California Department of Education, was awarded a Project Hope grant, and we worked on this together, and as well as with our cross-sector team, including First Five California, is building trust and partnership to expand access and quality of early learning and care for Native children, supporting local level systems building for tribal childcare, and bringing the voices of the tribal communities to the state, and in turn, increasing the access to culturally appropriate materials and traditions for Native children. And I won't read the background to you, but you'll have these available to you to get additional information about the background of that work. Next slide, please. So we have created our own TQIS, and this is what it encompasses. And that is what we want Native children to know and do. And this was brought to us from the voices of the tribal communities, from tribal programs, the board of directors of the TCCAC. And so we're proud of the work that's been put into that. It's really important to be able to have culture rise to the top of everything that our association does to support the communities, and that they are the drivers of what that looks like in their own communities. We also have a workforce development grant through the California Department of Social Services, and we have created a tailored approach for relative care providers, which California also calls FFN, family, friend and neighbor. And we have been working on creating tribal coaches and mentors. And we have are working on equality improvement plans, support TNTA with the local level at the tribes level to support them in their QIP, as well as professional development plans, which right now we have over 100 professional development plans that have been developed with our workforce advisor to participate in the workforce pathways. We're working on tribal certification, specific trainings that are culturally inclusive, supports for other certifications in higher education, and mini grants and stipends that support the provider level and teacher level work. Part of our work is also to be able to tell the stories, to be able to have that data, and to be able to use the tribal community needs assessments to be able to identify how they can build upon their strengths. What are their specific needs? Where are their barriers, and how we can support that, and to tell that story at the state level, as well as the federal level. So we have surveys, we're getting demographic information, and we're working right now on those community needs assessments for states. First steps for the quality improvement system leadership pathway. The tribal child care administrators will be able to participate in a community needs assessment, TNTA, at our TQIS summit that's coming up at Roanoke Park at Grayton Resort and Casino, May 9th through 11th. And that's our very first TQIS summit. We also continue to do outreach and to strengthen connections at the local level, and as well as the partnerships, like I'm right now at this very moment working with all of you. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we did through Project Hope was that we really wanted to be able to tell the story of the tribes in California. And we wanted to have an invitation for participation, not only for the tribes, but for the partners in the state. In order to do this, we had brought on a documenter and a videographer to be able to do interviews and to be able to capture the stories of those that have participated. And this work continues to be a cornerstone of the work that we're doing through TCCAC, and we want to share that with you today. So we do have the video to share with you, and if you will bear with us for a second, we'll pull that up and we can watch the video together, and then I can answer any questions that you might have.
While we're waiting, thank you again, Kim, for all of the work and the partnership to uplift culture as a center of everything we do for early care and education. So I know it's in your lifeline and your blood. And
Thank you, Jackie. Like I said, when I had my own center, I was very privileged and did not realize how privileged I was until I went to work for the tribe. When I went to work for the tribe, everything that I had access to for resources disappeared. And so I was asking for those resources for the families in the community on the reservation, and I was told no, that you do not have access to the local R&R, and you do not have access to local LPC, you cannot access APP, and you cannot get the food program. And so I said, why? Why is it that as soon as we move a center onto native land in this state, is all of these resources taken away? And so that's when I put on my advocacy hat. And the day I left, which technically I stayed on for a few months, so August of the 22, we had access to every single one of those things at Calusa. So sometimes you have to find a way, and that's what I had to learn through my work at the tribe. And here's our video.
great team.
So dear Creator, thank you for this day. Thank you for life. Thank you for the blessing of us being able to spend this time together.
Some things are asleep, but they're waking up.
I'm excited to see what we can do for our program and help it grow by connecting with everyone that we did.
I am very thankful to sit in a room with all of you and learn. One of our biggest missions here is to make sure that everybody knows they have a voice and it deserves to be heard.
And I just appreciate all the information and tools you guys give us. I have seen like the optimistic lenses that everybody has coming to the table with new and inventive ideas.
I truly believe 100% that the more that we do this, the more we're gonna gravitate to this powerful voice that I know we all dream of. And our kids aren't gonna know a world that their culture wasn't present in.
The work that we do at TCCAC is the work of those that are in the field of tribal early learning and care.
TCCAC gives us the opportunity to have a large conversation with a large group of people and be able to ensure that we have picked up whatever other innovative ideas and thought processes to give our clients and our kids the best services possible.
We support the providers' work, the people that are in the field, the people that are in direct service, and the people that do the day-to-day work with children in tribal communities. We also really work to be able to be a liaison, to bridge gaps, to be able to provide opportunities from state and tribal relationships, to educate others that could help us to send our messages about how important it is to be inclusive of tribal child care in the state, to provide equitable opportunities, to align systems, to have access to funding in an equitable manner, and to be culturally responsive when working with tribal childcare in the state of California and with the tribes.
There's cultural aspects, I think, to working with a tribal childcare association and with our tribe and our tribal families that I think is a little bit different maybe than, a county program.
TCCAC has really put culture at the forefront of quality childcare.
Hand Game was a way for our people to get together and share food, hang out, have laughter. It's a way for the kids to learn how to sing their songs and play their traditional games, because what it is it's our traditional old way of gambling. Each side gets 5 sticks, and there'll be 4 bones, 2 white and 2 black. 2 people will hide the bones, and the other team will guess. Normally we guess for both the white and black, but we're just verbal which one we're guessing for.
It brings people together, people that we wouldn't have much in common with other tribes. That this is the one way that we could come together and, visit each other and laugh with one another and have fun.
Culture's all around us. The land that we live on, the fish that are in the streams.
Our culture coordinator in the men's side, he comes once a week and he does prayers and a story with them and show them all the medicine tools that he uses.
What I see as culture is connecting with Mother Earth. I see culture as talking to Ikadev, Creator, and knowing that I walk alongside someone. And whether that's, I'm good with beads, or I'm good with cooking, or I'm a provider for my family, or we're dancing in ceremonials, or I offer prayer. There's so many different things that are embodied in culture, and what you feel is your culture. Something I feel like is important for partners to know, to relate and work with tribal communities, is that we're not all the same.
We are living culture, we are living language, we are living traditions. And it's important for our children to carry that on.
Until we recognize the fact that every one of us are a different nation, we're nowhere near to knowing that we all have our own culture.
You come to the table and you sit and you listen. And I think in our field, sometimes in early childhood education, we're always moving so quickly. And being able to slow down and say, what is needed? What is unique to these childcare centers, to these teachers?
It's important that the state listens and that there is this avenue of sharing information, providing technical assistance, but also listening to the tribes of what's taking place in tribal communities.
One thing that I really, really like about these meetings is by the end of it, everybody, the new people and everybody is close family.
A lot of the reason why some of you are in this room and continue to be in this room is because of the relationships. And because of the relationships, the work is meaningful. And because the work is meaningful, we are able to accomplish a lot together. How can we make sure that all of the children and the families feel that they can access resources equitably?
How can we make sure that culture is incorporated into the activities, into the opportunities for all tribal families?
The children are our future. They're the ones that are going to be carrying on our culture, our traditions, our stories, as well as taking care of the legal issues. Some becoming tribal administrators, some becoming council members. They're the ones that are going to be pushing what we started and what our ancestors started in the past. They're going to be pushing it in the future.
Tribal childcare is a safety net for the health and wellness of tribal communities. It's important that we see tribal childcare as a source of information, of communication, with families throughout the state of California.
We would like to invite each and every one of you to be a part of our cultural project and honor you and our children and our communities and our tribes a whole.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I love those people. They're my people.
President Perez, I do have a question, Chair Perez, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. Please go.
It was a very, very powerful presentation and video. Thank you very much. I feel like I'm closer to this issue and the people with whom you work and partner in a much more profound way. So I'm really grateful. There was a comment that you made right before the video that I wanted to make sure I understood a little bit more, which is you said that when you moved over, from what I heard is that when you moved to tribal land with the childcare work, that there were accesses to resources that you didn't have. You talked about the R&R, you talked about other resources. Could you break down, I don't want to assume anything, could you break down why that was the case?
Thank you, Katie, for your question. I think that a lot of it was just lack of knowledge and education. There was a lot of misconceptions about the fact that the tribes can license their own programs. They do not have to go through state licensing. And since they do not have to go through state licensing, because essentially by going through state licensing with the California Department of Social Services with community care licensing, there was a paper that you would have to sign that said that you would waive your sovereignty to do this for this particular space. So that was a big red flag for tribes. They'd worked way too hard for their sovereignty to give that up. So when I went through the process of the licensing, because that's what I was familiar with, as soon as we got to that paper, the tribe's like, no. And so because we weren't state licensed, we were told we can't refer to your program. We cannot put funds into your program. The food program is not eligible. However, doing some more digging and talking to the right people, plus I became the chair of the National Indian Child Care Association through my work. And so I just met with people at the federal level. So USDA, I just went straight to the top and said, why? And they're like, well, there shouldn't be a reason why. And so then we got legal involved, and we ended up coming with some basically some agreements of what would it look like to partner with a tribe that would still allow for like the food program to come. And it was written in legislation, but it's like kind of lumped in with military bases, if you will. So it wasn't pulled out very clearly. So it just took a lot of re-educating and really an understanding that a tribal license does include a lot of the same things that a state license does. It's just not regulated by the state.
And a follow-up question, if I could. So has that been resolved across the state? And if yes, great. How can we laud that? And if not, is there something that the First Five Commission can do to make that change possible for all childcare organizations in tribal nations across, frankly, the country, but I'll stick with the state.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. There are some barriers still of understanding. And I think, sorry, I look frozen, so I'm still going to keep on going. I think a lot of it has to come down to relationships and being like, say, for instance, I'm a First Five commissioner at Colusa County and have been for a long time, but having those invitations to tribal child care communities to serve in roles on boards and commissions and committees is really important. Having stronger language to be inclusive. I don't really think that there's enough awareness of how many tribal childcare and early learning programs there are in the state and what they operate like and what they look like. And so that's one of the things that we strive to do at TCCAC. So if we can help you with that, we would love to.
Thanks very much. And thanks for your work again.
Oh, yeah, it's my absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Kim. And just to also lift up, my understanding is that your organization, I've heard your name before from the Department of Education, the Department of Social Services. So I just want to lift that up too. These issues are being shared with them as well. I would, assume, and that there is some goodwill towards rectifying any additional barriers, because I think it is important that, you are directly going to those that are part or that are part of the licensing challenges, and then seeing like what Commissioner Albright just said, what if anything First Five can do as well. But I do want to just lift that up. My understanding is that these are issues that you are engaging with the
Yes, that
various
is
departments
correct.
on too. Okay, great.
Yes, and thank you. And I'm sorry, I used a very informal, I apologize, Commissioner Albright. I guess I was being less formal than I should have been. But yes, we that was part of the work that we did through Project Hope. And that was one of the lifts that we wanted to do, plus the work that we're doing through Impact with First Five, as well as the work that we're doing through the Quality Counts California, has allowed us to elevate that work through having funding available, which is a first. It's a very first. When we first got funding, it was about in 2020. And so we haven't, maybe 2019, it hasn't been very long. So that has allowed us to move into this much bigger platform of work and advocacy. Advocacy is with quotes, because we can't advocate, but you know what I mean. So yes, so thank you. And we are working on that tirelessly.
Thanks so much for the clarification.
Any other comments, questions from commissioners? Seeing none, I just want to thank you again. As Jackie mentioned, it means something to us that you would provide the opportunity to share. And we are honored that you are our first guest, and we look forward to additional conversations and partnerships with you, as well as the association. Thank you again.
Thank you so very much. And I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions later if they come up for you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jackie, for coordinating that. We appreciate, we know we had said we wanted to get some additional folks in the room who are partners and have the personal stories, and look forward to other ideas of how we engage and learn from other parents, organizations, so that we can have more of a flavoring as to what we're doing and why it matters. So now we're going to turn to public comment. I know we're a little behind, but I'm sure we can make it up in some way. As a reminder, members of the public may speak for up to 3 minutes on any non-agenda item or items not related to pending judicial, administrative, litigation, or personnel matters. No action by the State Commission may be taken on this public comment. If you wish to comment, use the raise hand function, and Jamie will call on the public in the order that they were signed up. Do we have any comment at this time?
I do not see any hands raised right now.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
We'll move now to the consent calendar. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at the consent calendar handouts. Items on the consent calendar are to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the commission, audience, or staff request a specific item be removed from consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Any agenda item removed will be voted upon following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Does a commissioner or member of the public wish to pull an item? I do not wish to pull an item, but I do want to lift up a question that I raised in an executive about the various funding decisions that were part of the consent calendar, because there were some big numbers attached to some of those. And so just as a reminder, there is a threshold that the ED has, that Jackie has in order to approve, but that all of these big number items were approved by the commission previously, and now we're just moving forward with a contract. That being said, the idea too is if anyone looks at some of these contracts and there's additional questions, that we can take them up. Perhaps I think program and evaluation or any commissioner could raise that and say, hey, can we talk a little bit more about the status of this contract? Just want to get clarification and affirmation from Jackie that's correct.
And I will defer to our chief counsel, James Lindsay, on the technicalities of the motion and the ratification process.
Thank you, Jackie. Good morning, commissioners. That's right. In the last executive advisory committee, there was some discussion about ratifications and whether or not it might be helpful to kind of go over that process just a little bit, especially with some newer commissioners. And I am mindful that we are running a little bit late. I'll be brief, but try to give some flavor to what it is that we're doing here and why we do it every commission meeting, because there may be some confusion. And I think it's important to remember that one of the primary reasons why this commission and other commissions like it exists is to be the guardians of the money. It's sort of a buffer from the taxpayers that created the statute and the ultimate funders and the new state agency that was created to implement certain programs. So we need to have some oversight in the law to make sure that the money that has become public now is being expended properly and within the guidance of and authority of the commission itself. So that leads us to Article 11 of the bylaws. And I know you don't have that in front of you, but Article 11 of the bylaws talks about, it's titled Procedures for Conduct of Business. And all of those sections pretty much relate to money and expenditures of money. And when the executive director can make decisions, for a necessity, and when he or she can delegate, and when the commission itself has authority. So in section 1 of the bylaws, it simply confers authority, signature authority, to the executive director for any contract. And of course, that's for operational needs. We enter into contracts much more frequently than the commission can meet and discuss and sign contracts. So section 1 simply just says that the executive director can sign the contracts on behalf of the commission. Section 2 and 3 set thresholds of $150,000. If a matter is more, if a contract is more than $150,000, then the authority is from the commission. Authority has to be received from the commission for that expenditure. If it's under $150,000, the commission has delegated authority to the executive director to enter into or amend those contracts, provided that it's necessary and for the purposes of the act itself. And then there's a further potential delegation. If a contract is less than $10,000 or less, the executive director can in turn delegate authority to certain staff members to enter into those contracts because of their relatively minimal nature. But with all that said, just because there's signature authority and delegated authority to the executive director, section 5 of Article 11 has a periodic review by the commission of all contracts that were entered into in that intervening period to make sure, again, that you are fulfilling your fiduciary duty to taxpayers, essentially, that money is being spent in the proper ways within the authority that's granted. And so staff gives you these documents titled ratification, but these contracts have already been entered into so that you can satisfy yourselves individually and as a group that the money is being spent in proper purposes, either from direct authority that's been provided or within that monetary authority that's been delegated to the executive director and in some instances to lower level staff. So hopefully that gives you a very brief synopsis and understanding of why we do this every single time that we come here. It's just to make sure that the public, and you are notified of the contracts that we entered into, the money that's being spent, and then to provide any questions that might be necessary at that point. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, but hopefully that gives you a better flavor of why we do this.
Thank you, James. I think for me, the question was seeing these and putting them on the consent calendar will just require those of us to remember to look at them. It's very easy to say consent and say, oh, okay, everything's up to snuff there. But I am mindful what you just pointed out, that some of these numbers are big numbers, millions and millions of dollars going out. And we just want to do the due diligence as you just reminded us. So thank you for the clarification. And now, or the edification. And now I will call for a motion. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't see your hand. Yes.
Sorry, and this is sort of a rookie question. Is this a new practice, James? This is a current practice. Okay.
This has been the
because we're
practice.
new that we got the longer explanation. Okay. Awesome.
Yes, that's right. It's to make sure that everybody kind of has a good feeling for why we do this, but this is not a new process. This has been in the bylaws since the beginning of this commission.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, and we're trying to, since so many of us are new, remind ourselves, this is why, this is why, this is why. So that was one of the reasons. And when I see big numbers, I ask questions automatically.
Yeah. I'd like to make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Commissioner Hazen, seconded by Commissioner Albright. Jamie, will you please call the roll?
Katie Albright,
Aye.
Shana Hazen,
Aye.
Marcel Jimenez. Oh, looks like she's off right now. Jackie Majors.
Aye.
Vivian Velasco Paz,
Aye.
Yanina Perez,
Aye.
Lori Russo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. So we have approval of the consent calendar. Now turning to the financial update, we're now moving into information items. No action, as a reminder, will be taken by the commission. And now to Marcia Thomas to give us the always exciting financial update. Hi, Marcia.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you today and welcome to our new commissioners. Just want to give a financial update. Since the last commission meeting, there hasn't really been any significant updates to the revenue. So the update today will be relatively brief. I'll start my presentation today with a recap of what we discussed at the January commission meeting. Next slide. There we go. So last time that we were together, I shared the updated revenue projections from the Department of Finance, which was inclusive of the passage of Proposition 31, which passed in November of 2022. Proposition 31 upheld SB 793, which prohibits most sales of flavored tobacco products and tobacco product flavor enhancers. The updated revenue projections continue to show a downward trend caused by both intended and unintended factors. Intended being that California is reducing their tobacco consumption. Unintended being the current economic climate, which we all know is challenging. So the decline in revenue between what was presented in May of 2022 versus January of 2023 was about 7 to 10%. Fiscal year 22-23 is only reflecting a half-year impact. But in 23-24, at the end of the year, we'll realize the full year impact. So the loss of revenue will depend largely on how consumers respond to the proposition. For example, consumers could switch from flavored to non-flavored products, or they can just cease smoking altogether. So next slide. So this slide displays a statutory distribution of the revenue that's deposited into the California Children and Families Trust Fund. 80% of it's allocated to the county commissions, and then 20% is allocated to the state administered accounts. So for mass media, education, childcare, research and development, unallocated, and administration. The last time we discussed the impact of the updated revenue projections on the state administered accounts. Since we do not receive our revenues up front on July 1st, like other appropriations, the commission steadily relies on carryover balances on each of the funds to meet current year obligations as well as new year obligations. As revenues continue to decline, staff continue to monitor the cash flow and the health of the accounts. In May, we'll receive updated revenue projections from the Department of Finance, and we'll share the updated financial plan and fund condition with commissioners when we meet in June. Next slide. Okay. Since our last meeting, 8 months of Proposition 10 revenue, so through February of 2022, has been transferred into the California Children and Families Trust Fund. The total transferred by California Tax and Fee Administration, minus the adjustments, was 158.7 overall, with the state commission being allocated 31.7 million. In addition to Prop 10 revenues, we also received Proposition 56 backfill. The portion allocated to the state commission was 16.9 million. So in total for this year, we've received revenue of approximately 48.7 million, which again is inclusive of both Prop 10 revenue and then the Prop 56 backfill. In comparison to this time last fiscal year, we're tracking about an 11% decrease in the revenues. We still have 4 more months of Prop 10 revenues to be received this fiscal year. So the full year fiscal year impact will not be received or realized until about September or October of this calendar year. And the next slide. So this slide is showing the fluctuation of revenues. Again, going back, it's important to note that we do not receive our revenue on July 1st, like other appropriations. We receive the revenue monthly. And as you can see by the slide, it fluctuates monthly. For February is a good month to point out. The revenues are typically low. This year, the state commission got 1.6. That was our share. In comparison to the prior months. So for February, like overall, what was transferred into the trust fund was 2.3 in December, 4.7 in January, and then we came in a lot lower in February. So again, this is just pointing out the fluctuation and just showing how hard it is for us to plan as far as like what we'll be getting in. In talking to CDTFA, they did confirm that the revenue is again attributable to February being a low month or a short month, sorry. When we have a short month or holidays in the month, it shortens the processing time. And so the revenue cutoff doesn't include all of the revenue that they collected. So we'll see an increase in March when we get the remainder of the revenue. It's not unusual for February to be lower. It also happens in November. But yeah, so the fluctuations are basically showing that we rely heavily on the carryover to meet obligations, right? Because we can't plan exactly what we're going to get. So in addition to Prop 10 and Prop 56 backfill, we recently received the first 2 quarters of the California electronic cigarette excise tax. As of July 1st, retailers of electronic cigarettes containing or sold with nicotine are requested to collect the tax at a rate of 12.5% from the purchaser at the time of the sale. So of the tax collected, minus adjustments made by CDTFA, the California Children and Families Trust Fund received 12% of the overall allocation. For the first 2 quarters, the transfers to the trust fund was 1.8 million, with the state commission getting 369,000. When we meet in June, we will share the May revised revenue projections and the impact of those projections to the first 5 California financial plan, as well as the fund condition. We'll discuss our current and future obligations as we move into the new fiscal year. And that's currently all I have. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none at this time. Thank you again, Marcia.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Okay, oh, I heard, yes.
Yes, not a question, but I did just want to lift up what I heard, and probably many of you, I think yesterday at Advocacy Day with the association, just the level of concern and I think urgency around these significantly declining revenues and different from what all of the counties had anticipated. And so the important work that we need to continue doing together to try to address this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hazen. I also was wondering and hoping in public comment, or as Avo and team keep sharing with us how things are going on their side of the house, because we have heard, and they did share about the 18-month steep, the 130 million decline in revenue that they're expecting. And so it would be helpful to just keep track of that. So thank you. Any public comment at this time?
You and you. We have one. Gina. From First 5 Below.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning, almost afternoon. Thank you for taking my comment. I really appreciate Marcia keeping on top of our revenues, though they're declining. It's really comforting to know that First 5 California is keeping a watchful eye, and appreciate the information. I just wanted to put one more item on the dashboard, so to speak, and that is that we're still operating under the allocations from an old birth rate data chart. So the 2019 birth rates and the 2020 birth rates have been published by Department of Healthcare Services, but I do understand, as we discussed in a previous meeting, that Department of Finance has not updated those individual county allocations for First 5 California yet. And I appreciate that, but would just like to remind that we're almost at a full year of incorrect allocations. And for those of us who should be receiving a different amount, when we get to the true up, it's going to be a fair amount of money that needs to come in. And so we're missing that revenue now. For instance, YOLO, by our calculations, we have a loss of approximately 86,000 in this fiscal year alone by not updating those birth rates. And then for some counties, they will likely have to have a holdback because they've received more than they should have for this year, and that could hurt as well. So the sooner we can get that rectified, the better. And if there's any way that you can let us know as soon as you know when you're going to get those projections, certainly I can tell you my commission is very interested in knowing when we might receive a true up. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Marcia, is there a way just to inquire, is this based on statute when finance updates?
I can take that question, Chairperson. We've actually worked with the Fiscal Advisory Committee, and Undersecretary Midgick has tried to actually call Department of Finance and all of that. So, and I know that as soon as we receive it, Marcia and team will send that note out, because we actually raised it about a year ago, as Gina had mentioned, and YOLO is near and dear to my heart. Completely understand what that benefits, how that benefits my backyard. So, but again, without bias, just trying to make sure that we're in constant communication with finance about that. And I know that some commissioners themselves personally have tried to have the conversation with finance as well.
So has there, just a point of clarification, has there been an email from you to finance? No, just phone calls? Or?
No, phone calls, conversations. There has not been an update. And I asked, Marcia, to probably their annoyance, Jamie and Marcia's like, have they contacted us? So they have not contacted us personally to update those data.
Is it possible to just have an email? Because what I heard you say is conversations, phone calls, just
Both.
an email. Okay.
We've been doing both.
Okay, wonderful. If there's a way to circle back with us to see what we can do, or if there's an inquiry that we can make as well to the governor's office.
And noting we were there at the confirmation for the new Department of Finance Director, Joe Steffenshaw, who we all have worked with, have great respect for. And if it calls for a text or a coffee with his wife, maybe we're there yet. So,
well, a year is time to start asking other questions. So, okay, thank you, Gina, for lifting that up.
Thank you.
Was there another hand?
Yes,
Yeah.
Courtney Armstrong from the association.
Oh, hi, Courtney, please go.
Hi, Courtney Armstrong with the association. Just to raise that point that Gina just raised again, and I know you just had the conversation and probably can't answer my question, but we did have conversations with the Department of Finance about this probably last month or the month before, and they had expressed that I think it's a publishing issue, so they're backed up because of the pandemic, but they did say they have data that they can share with First Five. And so I think Avo was putting someone at Department of Finance in contact with someone with First Five California. We would love to stay involved in those conversations. As Gina mentioned, that's a huge issue for the counties. But we just didn't know if it needs to be published like formal data, or if there's some way that you guys can reach an agreement on they can share data before it's formally published. So would love to get updates as those conversations proceed. I can't remember who at First Five California Department of Finance was put in touch with, but yeah, we're just very anxious about this. So hopefully anything we can do to help on our end, we would love to do that.
Happy to respond to that. I haven't seen it, but Chief Counsel James, we've actually unpacked this ourselves about the statutory requirement about publishing, but I will hand that over to our Chief Counsel. Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Jackie. I just wanted to briefly mention that the statute requires that we use the quote unquote last reported data. And so we have always relied on, or at least in recent years, have relied on Department of Finance to actually publish that data versus us receiving some sort of informal contact or anything like that. I think the statute does require that it be, reported in a formal way. And so we have been hopeful that we would get that update quickly. Obviously, that has not occurred, but we remain hopeful. But I do believe that the statute requires it to be published.
Chairperson, you're on mute. It looks like you are saying something.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to get clarification. So the statute says it must be published, or it says reported, and we are defining reported as formally published?
The latter. It says last reported data. And we have always interpreted that as it being published. Otherwise, if it's not, I think that you always interpret these types of matters with a public entity that the reporting has occurred in a public fashion versus something that's been privately reported. So I think the better interpretation, though inconvenient perhaps, is that we need to rely on something that's been published to the public.
And published specifically, as I understand from staff, Department of Finance specifically, and confirm all the things that Ms. Armstrong had raised, same concerns about delays they shared with Ms. Armstrong that they did share with us.
Okay, thank you. I think we can follow up on this as Gina has her hand up again, or is that
that was me again? Sorry.
Oh, that's you.
So then I think what we had been told is that the next date that they anticipate publishing I probably shouldn't be speculating here, but I believe we were told it wouldn't likely be until 2024. So I'm curious if First Five California has any plans on how to speed that up.
So Courtney, is it okay if it sounds like this is an issue perhaps that you, with staff, we can circle back on, because it does sound like it needs to be a back and forth because there's an interpretation. There's finance who probably Jan 10 budget is when they'll be able to publish something. Usually they have those sort of numbers too, but let's not speculate like you're saying. Let's try to get some additional information and then perhaps report back out to the subcommittee and then at the next commission meeting.
Yeah, that would be great. It would just be great to work together to figure out the strategy for how to push that forward because 2024 feels very far away.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you again for bringing this up to you and to Gina. Are there any other comments? Seeing none.
No,
We are now. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so we are now going to move into the action portion of the agenda. And as a reminder, 3-minute per person time limit during public comment. We will then now turn to Vice Chair assignment, and I will defer to James.
Thank you, Chairperson Perez. We are obligated under the bylaws, specifically Article 7, to have an election of the vice chair annually. Normally, this is done with our advisory committee assignments, but because we got fixated on making some pretty significant changes to the advisory committees, this was sort of left behind, but it's something that we are required to do. It doesn't mean that there's no term limits or anything like that. Anybody, obviously, other than the chairperson, can serve as the vice chair, but it's just something that we have to do, and so we're doing it now. And so unless there are specific questions from me, I think that I'll kick it back to Chairperson Perez to facilitate any discussion or make a motion.
Thank you, James. I would like to move that we renominate Vice Chair Shayna Hazen as the new Vice Chair. I move the nomination of Commissioner Hazen to serve for 1 year commencing upon adjournment of this meeting as Vice Chair for the First Five California Children and Families Commission. Is there a second?
A second.
Wonderful. So it was moved by Commissioner Bettis, seconded by Commissioner Majors. Jamie, can we call the vote? Call the roll.
Katie Albright,
Yes.
Shayna Hazen,
Aye.
Elsa Jimenez, Jackie Majors,
Aye.
Vivian Velasco Paz. Okay, Giannina Perez,
Aye.
Lori Rizzo.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So we have approval for Vice Chair Hazen to continue her service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we're now going to move into advisory committees, deferring back to James.
Thank you again. And again, another housekeeping item. We've talked about advisory committees for several meetings now. We had, since our last commission meeting, we've had a resignation and a reappointment of a member of the commission. Commissioner Albright is now with us. And so the proposal recommendation is to simply place and assign Commissioner Albright the vacated spots from former Commissioner Alvarez to the Program and Evaluation Committee and the Public Education and Outreach Committee. But of course, again, I will kick it back to Chairperson Perez to facilitate any discussion or any potential modification to that recommendation.
Thank you, James. Do we have any discussion? I will assume, Commissioner Albright, this has been discussed with you.
I'm very happy to serve on these committees. Thank you very much for asking.
Thank you. Any public comment? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there-
Second.
Thank you.
Majors.
It was approved.
Commissioner Majors.
Yes, I hear voices. So it was approved by Commissioner Hazen, seconded by Commissioner Majors. Is Jamie, please call the roll.
Katie Albright,
Yes, I think I can vote on this, right? Yes, aye.
Shannon Hazen,
Aye.
Elsa Jimenez, Jackie Majors,
Aye.
Vivian Velasco Paz.
Aye.
Got it. Giannina Perez,
Aye.
Lori Riso.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, now we're going to move to early childhood behavioral health action vote. I will contain my excitement. Please, Jackie.
Thank you, Chair Perez, and thank you for your patience. I think we've made up a lot of time, and staff were saying, Jackie, you speak really fast, so slow down, so please. But I will go at the pace that makes the most sense, because I know I'm standing between you and lunch, and that's always the perfect place to be, right? I would like to actually invite Melissa Stafford Jones to the virtual dais alongside me. Many of you already know her. She's been a longtime partner since I've been at First Five. Really grateful to actually, it was never a goodbye, it was a see you later. And this is one of the see you later moments. And so I'm gonna ask staff to tee up the deck, if you will. So again, just so excited to be here, and wanted to thank you, Chair Perez, and other commissioners, including former Commissioner Alvarez, as well as Commissioner Midget, who isn't here, Secretary Galley, Melissa, and her entire staff, and the team at HHS for bringing 4 proposals we're going to be discussing today. So just excited as you are about this. So move on to next slide, please. So in our time together, as a process, you'll start noticing our presentations will have end caps. What we're going to be discussing is the behavioral health, what it is, and why the funding is important at this moment in time. What the issue we are doing, or we are trying to solve with this proposed investment. We'll also, Melissa will provide an overview of the Governor's Master Plan for Kids' Mental Health and the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. Just a refresher of the conversations we've had thus far with the Commission on the topic of early childhood behavioral health. And we will walk through the proposed investment opportunity in front of us in partnership with CalHHS, and then close with the fiscal request to fund this per staff after making a informal information item on before the Commission in May. Next slide, please. So again, what is behavioral health? For us, behavioral health refers to mental health and substance use disorders, life stressors and crises, and stress-related physical symptoms. But for the purposes of this conversation and work with Melissa, we've honed in on mental health specifically. Next slide. Funding for behavioral health is, as we know, critical for a number of reasons, including its intersection with the adverse childhood experiences, toxic stress, mental health, and brain development for our young children and their families. Addressing the mental health and behavioral health challenges exacerbated especially by the pandemic, particularly for Black, Indigenous people and communities of color and underserved communities. The importance of focusing on caregivers and parents in supporting their own mental health, as well as their children's, and the opportunity it provides for prevention and early intervention. Next slide, please. As we know, according to a recent pandemic study from posted by our partners at the First Five Center for Children's Policy, 70% of parents are worried about their family's mental health. In California, over 284,000 youth cope with major depression, and we know that 66% of kids with a depression do not receive treatment, according to Governor Newsom's master plan for kids' mental health. Nationally, an estimated 8% to 10% of children under age 5, again, under age 5, experience clinically significant and impairing mental health challenges. Underserved and marginalized communities are at greater risk because they may not have access to the mental health resources that would support their healing. Barriers to mental health care for Black, Indigenous people and communities of color in the U.S., as you all know, include these issues: socioeconomic disparities, stigma, provider bias, and inequality of care. And of course, structural issues like lack of available resources and in regards to provider network that is specialized in 0 to 5 and two-generation approaches, represented from the workforce and connection to care. So next slide, I'm going to hand this over to Melissa to provide some background information on the governor's master plan for kids' mental health and the Children and Youth Behavioral Initiative to level set today's discussion and better understand the context in which this investment is being made.
Thanks
Melissa.
so much. Thanks so much, Jackie. And thank you, Chair Perez and commissioners, for having me here today to co-present with Jackie. It's just a pleasure to be with the First Five family and all the important work that you all are doing. So thank you. So yes, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes giving an overview of the governor's master plan for kids' mental health and the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which we're hopeful will provide some context for the request that we are bringing to you together today for a discussion. So Governor Newsom announced his master plan for kids' mental health last summer in August of 2022. And the governor's master plan for kids' mental health really takes a cross-sector systems change, all of the above approach to saying, we need to take a transformative, holistic approach to improving our kids' mental health and well-being. And so the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, is at the core, but it is really contained in the master plan in conjunction with several other initiatives that are deeply aligned in terms of a values and outcomes perspective of work that is happening across education and healthcare. So for example, the master plan specifically calls out the investments and work that is happening in community schools, in transforming Medi-Cal through the CalAIM initiative, in really building up the workforce that we know is so critical to this work, as Jackie already mentioned, that we've absolutely heard from youth and families about how essential it is that we have a behavioral health workforce. What we hear from youth and families is that speaks my language, understands my community, and understands my experience. And so all of these investments and aligned initiatives together make up the governor's master plan for kids' mental health. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative is really at the core of the master plan. It is a 5-year, $4.7 billion initiative that's really intended to help us reimagine and then actually begin to create a changed, revised ecosystem of behavioral health services and supports for children and youth age 0 to 25. And that reimagining and building of this reimagined ecosystem really has some very particular features and tenets to it. One is that it be a more coordinated, integrated system. We hear from youth, we hear from families, we hear from partners working in the system that the silos we have today create barriers to families getting the services and supports that we need. So how is it that we really think about new and different ways to create a more coordinated, integrated set of services and supports? Also to be a more youth-centered system. We actually recently released a report called Youth at the Center that really synthesizes what we have heard from youth, from parents, from families, communities about what they want and need out of a reimagined behavioral health ecosystem, because we know that in order for them to access the services and supports they need, it has to be done in a way that works for them and that makes sense for them. And so really trying to build a much more youth-centered approach. And that is also deeply connected to the next feature I'll mention, which is a more equitable system. We know that all of our children and youth have been affected by mental health challenges and have that potential, that the data has been growing over the last 5 years in terms of the increasing mental health challenges for our young people exacerbated by the pandemic. But we also know, as Jackie pointed out in her remarks, that mental health challenges disproportionately impact some of our groups of children and youth, our BIPOC youth, our LGBTQ+ youth, and our youth from low-income and underserved communities. And it's not only on the outcome side, but they also face systemic and structural barriers to access and to the kinds of things that support well-being. So really deeply focused on how are we building a more equitable system in terms of this work. And I know I heard earlier mentioned in some of the reports about we really appreciate the participation of First 5 California staff in our CYBHI Equity Working Group, which has been working very hard to really build an approach and a framework that we can apply to all of the work we're doing across the CYBHI to embed and advance equity. And then the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative is also very intentional about working to build a more prevention, early intervention, and positive mental health system of supports. The CYBHI absolutely works across the entire continuum of services and supports that children and families need, all the way from thinking about how do we support building a positive mental health to making sure that our children and youth with the most intensive behavioral health clinical needs are getting the access to the services that they need. But we've also heard from youth who say to us and families, please stop waiting until I'm in crisis to provide me with support. And we've heard from our practitioners in the system, all parts of the system, education, health, behavioral health, physical health, that we know with kids, many times our lack of coordination and the silos that we have prevent us from doing the kind of prevention and early intervention that we actually would make a difference. We know would make a difference in terms of the trajectory of how mental health challenges manifest for our kids. So while we're working across the entire continuum, anywhere we can be building in so that more kids and families are supported earlier, that is part of our body of work through the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. So in addition to this very strong focus on equity and accessibility, one of the core tenets of the CYBHI is also we need to meet children and families where they are. And so we know that home is one of those really important places, and family, right? We are very much have a family approach that includes parents and caregivers as well as children, since obviously what is happening with the family affects the well-being of children of all ages, but of course, particularly in early childhood. And also thinking about education settings, early childhood education settings, K through 12, as well as higher education, is really a core place where we can meet children and families where they are at in order to increase equitable access to behavioral health supports. Next slide. Great, I promise not to go through this whole slide, but I wanted to share it with you. So the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, so the question is, well, how are we going to move toward that reimagined ecosystem that I just described? And the way we are moving toward it through this initiative is by working in 4 main focus areas. And then these 20 boxes that you see below, we call them work streams. I think of them as tools in our toolbox. These are the policy changes, the programmatic changes, the budgetary resources that we have to utilize to move toward that vision of a reimagined, improved, transformed ecosystem of supports for our kids. So this work falls into these four focus areas. The first is really around building the workforce that we need. We need a larger workforce. We need a more diverse, representative behavioral health workforce serving children, youth, and families. And we need to support them having the capacities and the resources they need in order to meet the needs of our children and youth. A second area is really thinking about how do we build the infrastructure of this ecosystem? And that has a number of components to it. One is literal bricks and mortar infrastructure. We know we lack certain kinds of services. And so how do we build up the infrastructure, the physical bricks and mortar infrastructure of those services? And that's already underway, particularly with respect to children and youth. There were $480 million in grants awarded for capital projects in December of 2022, which did, by the way, include several perinatal services projects related to behavioral health. But it also includes partnerships and collaborations. How do we really ensure that we're going to have a more coordinated ecosystem, different parts of that system that have historically not had an opportunity to work together, or where there have been a lot of barriers to collaboration? We are really trying to resource increased collaboration across those different parts of the system. It also includes addressing online services, since we know that one of the other places where kids are is online. So how do we create a safe place that has resources and connection points to support the behavioral health of our children and youth? And then another piece in this bucket that's really important and that we'll talk in a few minutes more about is really thinking about how we take practices that we know work, that we know are effective, but currently right now are not systemic and are not scaled. But the evidence, both the traditional research evidence or in fact community-defined evidence, tells us they are effective. So how do we scale those practices so that they become systemic and they can be sustained over time? So all of that is in, and more, is in that ecosystem infrastructure work. The third bucket of work is really around coverage and an all-payer approach. And this includes two really important features. One I know that you all are all extremely familiar with, which is the really wonderful addition of dyadic care services as a Medi-Cal benefit that started in January of 2023. Thank you, Chair, for your, and I know many other folks who are both visible here, but also that we can't see on the screen right now, who worked incredibly hard, not only to make that happen, but are working very hard right now to make it real in terms of implementation and supporting use of the benefit, which we know is available to children of all ages, but is particularly important in terms of this dyadic approach for our youngest children. And then also a key part of coverage is really an all-payer approach that is supporting ongoing resources in schools TK through 12 for behavioral health services and supports from both Medi-Cal managed care plans, but also commercial plans. And then the fourth large bucket of work is really around public awareness and reducing stigma. We continue to hear from youth and families and parents and communities that stigma remains a barrier to kids getting the supports and services that they need. And so we've had a number of efforts underway to really think about how do we do that work of reducing stigma, raising public awareness about mental health and its impacts on our children, but also then using those campaigns and efforts to help connect youth and families to supports and services. Next slide. Great, and so with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Jackie. And one more thing, Jackie, real quick, I should have mentioned on that big box slide. I didn't talk about all of them, but I think more than half of those work streams include explicit early childhood components. So early childhood is really woven throughout. So if there are any questions from the commissioners about any of those that you would want me to touch on, I'd really welcome answering this. But I'll turn it back to Jackie.
Thank you. That was going to be included in some of our work streams. And I put this in an email to Melissa and team last time. It's just, we're so grateful for the intentional partnership with the early childhood and our staff at many of these work streams, and know that it was, when you left, we were a little bit sad, but now you're back and doing we know all the righteous things that are focused on children and families. And so grateful for that. Oh my gosh, my talking points are not in front of me, but I'm going to move them. And so just before we get into today's proposal and request for funding, just a couple of reviews on how we got here, especially for our new commissioners. And again, we can't emphasize more, like we heard loud and clear, and when I came in, is how do we actually work with our sister agency partners to make system change a reality and a possibility. It's noted that we can leverage our millions of dollars to help effectuate change for our families 0 to 5, that of the $4.7 billion on the table right now. We're providing the gap funding that allows for comprehensive change systems to happen, aligned with the governor's and the legislature's vision, and support and intentional funding of this initiatives. So back in January 2022, at the commission meeting, staff provided commissioners a brief overview of First Five's current investments, including a summary of each office's portfolio, a description of what's been learned from their programs, and how they align with the newly adopted North Star and audacious goal. At the May and July 2022 meeting, staff presented on proposed future investments, gathering feedback from the commission on various proposals and determining which to explore further. After these meetings, the list of proposed investments was narrowed down to 4, and staff were charged with fleshing out formal proposals to bring back to the commission. One of these proposals was emphatic and excited support for the early childhood behavioral health, with suggested investment opportunities, as you saw earlier, brought forth by Commissioner Mitch and Cal HHS staff. At the January 2023 Commission meeting, First Five California presented an information item on this early childhood behavioral health investment, where Commission directed staff to proceed with an action item at the April 2023 Commission meeting. The proposal was then brought to the Program and Evaluation Advisory Committee this month for review and questions. Just to, basically hone in on what would be helpful as we come back to the Commission for this request. The committee was extremely supportive of moving the proposal forward for full Commission approval, which brings us to today's action item. One step that I forgot to mention is that in before the May and July 2022 Commission meetings, we did have a kitchen cabinet formed by Kitty Lopez about the investments with association about what we were considering before bringing this forth to the Commission. Next slide, please. So slide 10, staff have been meeting with Cal HHS staff to determine ways to align efforts to advance our shared goals for children's behavioral health with a focus on children 0 to 5, their families, and really deepen the impact of investments underway and under consideration. We want to leverage our strengths and capabilities across our respective agencies and departments. And again, grateful for leaning into kind of the space that First Five California holds as systems change partners and agents. Through these conversations, an opportunity emerged for First Five California to strengthen the 0 to 5 strategy, investments, and impact under the Child, Youth, and Behavioral Health Initiative scaling of evidence-based practices and community-defined evidence practices workstream. With an investment from the First Five Commission, this would provide support and technical assistance to early childhood organizations and partners as they implement the grant funding later this month for various grants late in as well as in late 2023 for various grant phases of this work stream, as well as funding learning collaboratives of grantees to support effective scaling of funded practices. In total, this would be a $10 million investment to help leverage all that's underway. On that one little slide, you said 20 boxes, but it's so much more, Melissa, for the early childhood community. So if approved by the Commission today, staff's next steps would be to engage our partners, including our First Five County partners and the association, as we think about how to tackle this work ahead alongside Melissa and team. So Melissa, I'm wondering if you could talk specifically about how this investment and partnership would leverage the state's investment in CUHBI, which I think you have, and advance our shared goals, as well as anything else you'd like to add or elaborate on. I know there's I was looking for an announcement earlier.
That's right. No, thanks so much, Jackie. And I just want to say how much Cal HHS and CYBHI appreciate the opportunity to be in this partnership dialogue with First Five California. It's really been a wonderful series of conversations to really think about the deep alignment of this whole child, whole family approach to supporting our children's mental health and well-being. So it's just been a wonderful set of conversations, and I'm really pleased to be at this moment here together. So yes, as we explored on that box chart, all of the different work streams and where we really thought there could be some strong synergy and value add through our partnership, we landed particularly, and there's actually several non-fiscal items that I think we're going to have a moment to touch on later. So I don't want to suggest this is the only one because we're excited about all of them, but this is, I think, the first lead one since it has a fiscal component to it. But was in this area of scaling of evidence-based practices and community-defined evidence practices that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. And I want to just share a little bit of background on this work stream and how it was designed. It was actually developed in terms of what the practices would be to be scaled, how would those get selected through a think tank that the Department of Healthcare Services convened, as well as a public working group. And there were early childhood representatives on both of those groups. And I want to thank those folks who devoted quite a bit of time and expertise to really informing that working group and think tank process for, well, what are both potential practices to be scaled, but what are also the criteria that should be utilized to really think about what is chosen? Because the law that created this particular work stream does explicitly call out a focus on prevention and addressing racial equity. So really thinking about what are those practices that could do that. So there was a whole process. I think there were over 100 practices considered. The think tank and work group worked with the Department of Healthcare Services to really narrow in and the grant design was developed that included 6 rounds of funding. Several of those rounds have the potential for an early childhood component, but 2 of them are quite specific to early childhood. The first round of funding through this scaling of evidence-based practices, which was focused on parent and caregiver supports. And so the process is underway right now for the selection of those grants. What I can tell you from DHCS is there were many more proposals received than there will be, unfortunately, the possibility to fund, but there is the work underway with that now. And then the second round was related to trauma-informed practices and programs. And then the third round, which will be released very soon, is specific to early childhood wraparound support. And then there's a 4th, 5th, and 6th round that relate to youth-led supports and programs, early intervention work, which particularly has to do with first break psychosis and some other related work. And then the last is related to community-defined evidence practices. So the structure is that in addition to these 6 grant rounds of funding that are being released under this, DHCS is also going to be partnering with a third-party administrator who will be doing both grants administration functions, but also providing technical assistance and learning communities. Because one of the things that was really identified as part of this work that is you are scaling practices, right? There are going to be challenges. There are issues of fidelity. There are issues of how do you implement something at scale that may make new issues arise or new challenges arise or new opportunities for new kinds of partnerships. And so there was a strong emphasis on there should be a learning community to support all of the different organizations who receive grants across the 6 rounds to be able to be have some technical assistance and learning. As we looked at that and had our conversations with First 5 California, one of the things that really came to light was that it would be much more impactful and powerful if we could have an early childhood focus for the early childhood focused grants and organizations receiving those grants in terms of learning communities and TA. And so that was really the genesis of this proposal, to partner with First 5 California, given both the expertise of First 5 California, but we also know is the expertise of your many partners, including the First 5 Association, including the local First 5s, including other experts in the field who really have a lot of expertise with these practices and expanding them, that this would allow us to have this very dedicated early childhood focus of TA and learning community that's across the whole, all of the projects that will be funded under this, but to have this early childhood focus through a partnership with First 5 California. So that was really the genesis behind it and why we're so excited about the proposal and the way in which it will really allow us, I hope, to really strengthen and maximize the opportunity to scale these early childhood programs and practices that we know are so critical.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Staff just popped in and said the control room went down, so I don't know if it's back, if you want to advance the slide or not. You gotta love technology, because I was going to request control or share my screen, but if it's down in the control room, I can't do that. either way, but it's back up. Control room is back up. Love it. So for us, I know that Melissa, there are just a few things that we are working on, and we went into depth at the Program Evaluation and Research Advisory Committee, just supporting effective development of trauma-informed training in early childhood education with the Office of the Surgeon General. As you all are well aware of, Commissioner Majors, our update on the public awareness campaign and coordination. Melissa and team are always really great on, how do we push this message out? And there's more to come in May, because I think that's Young Child Mental Health Week, that we have some things. We're up to all the good trouble with Melissa, and just really supporting access to information and supports and navigation throughout. So I know it was a lot of information. As we point this out, we'd like to open it up for commissioner questions and discussions about the request in front of you, which is $10 million over 3 years to leverage state and federal dollars to support and fund technical assistance. Again, really, this is, next slide, please. So this is what we're asking, and it really is kind of the glue and the gas, and I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to present this to you and answer any, Melissa and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Melissa. I think it just is very symbolic to have you both co-presenting on this issue. So thank you for that. As you know, I'm very excited about this issue. I appreciate that you all have worked diligently to find a way to connect and leverage the billions that the legislature and the governor have committed to this effort. That being said, you know, I'm a fan of all of this. I do have just a couple of questions in particular. I'm going to ask a little bit from Melissa. When we talk about early childhood, and you said half of all the work streams include early childhood, I just want to get a point of clarification because I do see a lot of funding talking about schools as the hub. And schools are an important hub, but I have, and one of my personal issues has been like, why isn't ECE part of that? Like family resource centers, everything should be connected to that, not just at the school, because billions are going into the school. So that's my own question. And when we say half of all work streams include ECE, early childhood, I'd love to, as a follow-up, not right now, get a list of them and get clarification. Are they could be included or are they shall be included? Because I think that's an important distinction. And I would love to just put my vote in. We really want to encourage you, all of Cal HHS, the legislature and the governor, to really double down on early childhood. We know that there are additional needs throughout, and we know prevention means different things to different people. When we say prevention, some folks are saying 0 to 5 and some folks are thinking something else. So I think we just need to get really clear, because for us, 0 to 5, or I'll speak for me, 0 to 5, I think may not be getting the full, focus that it should. No prejudice on all the other investments, which are important, but my job is to push for the 0 to 5. So I would love to get some follow-up, and then a point of clarification on the exact 10 million. So this would be for TA for the 6 rounds, the 2 that have come down, as well as the 4 that are coming down. You're envisioning the 10 million would provide an early child specific TA for everyone, and just how would that work out?
Yeah, thanks for the question. On the first point, I just want to share, we are interested in continually working to strengthen the early childhood approach within the CYBHI. So we really welcome folks' recommendations and ideas for how we can continue to do that. I'm happy to sort of highlight for you which of the different work streams have early childhood components to them, or have that possibility, to your point, and candidly, some of which don't, just because of how the law was written, that they are specific to K through 12 in some cases in terms of the components there. So it is a mix, but wherever we can strengthen the early childhood aspects and that really strong focus on prevention and families and children, we want to do that. So if there are more ways we could be doing that, we would really welcome that conversation. In terms of the rounds, so the rounds that primarily relate to early childhood are round 1 and round 3. Depending on who applied and what is awarded in round 2, there could be some things in round 2 potentially as well. But yes, this TA and learning communities would support early childhood organizations across those rounds.
Got it. And round 3, my understanding is that it's coming out very soon. Can you say a little bit more? And I've heard it's 60 million, but just want to get a clarification on the amount.
That we will be able to speak to that when it comes out, which really should be very soon. So hopefully I'll leave it at very soon. Folks are working very hard to get it out.
Very, very soon. And then as another point, I'm familiar a little bit with the intention and just want to get it clarification. I think it's obviously significantly important to fund programs, but I'm also interested in the systems approach. So when we look at funding a number of different programs, how are they circling back and connected to the actual system? So when a local gets funded and their home visiting program, for example, how do we ensure they are connected to the writ large early childhood system in that county so that they are leveraging and building off of the infrastructure that's already there?
Yes, very much so. I think that part of the criteria that think tank and working group that I mentioned that helped design this approach, one of the criteria they actually selected was sustainability. And so really part of that discussion around sustainability was how are these practices part of larger systemic changes, and how can they be continued over time? Because scaling something that you don't have a way of continuing on within the context of the overall system, obviously that was not the recommendation. Was let's think about sustainability from both a funding perspective, but also that funding perspective relates to then how does it become more built into the overall systems that we have.
Okay,
And
and then,
can I, oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Go, Jackie. Sorry.
And I was going to add that this opportunity is to actually help build that out with our first fives locally, right? Like how does that, once the projects are funded, I think, as you all know, we started this conversation about what systems change, and having us be part of that through the communities of practice and TA, I think that would further the infrastructure, if you will, and circling back.
Wonderful, thank you. I could talk about this forever because it is an issue near and dear to my heart, but I just want to follow up and say, I know the locals have done a lot of good work in this, and just would love to see how, like you're saying, sustainability, but also just the systems change piece of it. Maybe that particular program, you know, needs to be embedded in a larger, not just about sustaining that program, but just creating that system infrastructure for the local. I'd love to learn more about that. And with that, I would like to open it up to other commissioner questions.
I have a question, but really just, again, I think I shared this the first time this was presented. I'm really excited about this. I'm sure you all know this, but mental health for young children is just almost unheard of. And when we look at many of our programs across California, we can even look at 0 to 3, you know, it's 0 to 5, but even 0 to 3, you can't even get an IEP. And so I would say that while there's a lot of under-resourcedness to go around, the school districts have different levels of support than I would say the vast rest of the ECE community that really does not have as many touch points to supports and to systems. So I would say, one, I'm just excited about it, but what I'd like to learn more about is how are we going to, I mean, I know we're going to leave things up to the counties that are tailored to really understand their communities, but what kind of things are we going to put in place to sort of guide counties and grantees to reaching the most in need population, whether that meant age, whether it means caregivers or parents. What things might we put in place? You may not have that answer now, I understand that. I'm just kind of putting my bid out that would be information that I really want to know and continue to learn from as we reach those populations with this really important support.
And I'm happy to offer a couple of thoughts, and then I don't know if they can be promoted to a panelist, Jackie, but Tisha Montero from DHCS, I think, is on the line if DHCS wanted to add to this, and Tisha's worked very closely on this work stream. But what I would say is that DHCS and through the work with the think tank and working group I mentioned, really thought very much about how to embed equity in the development of this work stream in terms of what would even be the practices, what would be the application criteria, what would be the selection criteria. There's data that is required to be reported as part of this this work stream, because as I mentioned, the law specifically calls out that one of the objectives of this work stream is to advance racial equity. So that is sort of the effort was to build that into the design of the practices that were selected, as well as the process for choosing the awardees. And then in terms of actually the data and other reporting that folks will have to do. Oh, great. I see Tisha's there. Tisha, do you want to add to that?
As she comes on, as you all know, Melissa was part of our Targeted Universal conversation about system change. And I know that this was lifted up earlier, is that our personal staff have been involved in the definition of equity for this work, and just that is something top of mind for us. As you all know, you have given us the charge to lead with equity. Melissa intentionally made sure that we were at the table for that equity framework, and in fact, I have to thank Sara Baches as well as Dr. Amanda Lawrence, who we stole from the MHSA OAC Commission in regards to actually I'm not going to say staff, in collaboration, working with Melissa and team and other stakeholders that were identified to lift that up and define that work. But Tisha, you nodded. So this is Ms. Montero from agency.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation of inviting the Department of Healthcare Services here today. And so I just want to echo what Melissa shared, and Jackie, I appreciate you raising what was our strategic approach about really developing a grant strategy that was equity focused, really took a keen eye to the populations of focus. And how do we take that information from our think tanks, from our various conversations with many folks across the span as it relates to experts in the fields of early childhood education, and how do we bring that to life in our various grant rounds? And so, as Melissa already mentioned, there's a lot of statutory requirements that we really used as a foundation, and then we took to our think tanks, but really collectively in consultation with our stakeholders, we focused on various priorities in our grant strategies, and that would span across all 6 competitive grant routes. And so our grant programs really rooted in prioritizing 3 major outcomes. In particular, it is prioritizing increased protective factors for children and youth. And of course, this includes 0 to 5 age populations, so we can measure by improvements and reporting well-being for children, youth, parents, and caregivers. Second, it is rooted in building incremental capacity, access, integration, and uptake in these selected evidence-based and community-defined practices that were selected in consultation with our stakeholders that have strong expertise in this area. And then the third outcome that we focused on was really supporting codification of these practices that were selected as well. But I really would like to just take a moment and focus on, based on our conversations with stakeholders, including in the educational field as well, related to the 0 to 5 population, really taking an effort to take an equity-driven approach in our grant strategy. So again, expanding across all 6 rounds, we are really looking to maximize the impact and to reduce disparities for all children and youth, with an emphasis on the programs and practices outlined in each grant round that will focus on marginalized communities that Melissa mentioned early on. And some of these communities are outlined in our statutory requirements for the initiative broadly. Also, an equity-driven approach is to incorporate youth and family voices. Again, to Melissa's point earlier, we have, with not just in our think tanks, but we have had many youth engagement efforts where at the center of our conversations are youth voices specific to certain grants, but then also parent and caregivers, so we can collect that insight for this very specific population area, 0 to 5, that can help us make informed decisions about the various grant rounds that we are releasing. We also are focusing on the upstream continuum of care to reduce the significant risk of behavioral health concerns in this age population as well. And I just want to note, I know generally speaking with a lot of our public facing documents that the eligible entities, when we say schools broadly, but some of our work streams really are focused on the TK population as well. So there's a heavy focus with our TK components in schools. And so really helping to build the sustainability around the programs that schools are just defining are part of their school culture, in including this age population as well. So just wanting to make that distinct point, because I know public facing a lot, we're focused on K through 12 and higher ed, but it really is bringing it back to our younger population as well, and for the parents and caregivers supporting them. An additional equity-driven approach is affirming the right to access timely help and support to provide accessible, high quality, appropriate care for children. Melissa really mentioned about focusing on destigmatizing community support. And then last, in closing, to just really taking a data-driven approach where we hope for those that are awarded, we have the contracts in place and there will be a request of various data elements being collected and reported to be able to demonstrate the ability to scale these programs and practices that are being awarded that are equity focused? And then also, how do we collect that data and tie it back to demonstrate if it really is going to be sustainable and reimbursable through our Medi-Cal programs as well? And so I think that was to, is it Gianni? I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name right.
Everyone
Perez. Okay, my apologies. I was trying to read tiny fine print with my glasses, but I think it's to your point of like, how do we really ensure that what we're currently administering through these grant programs, how is it going to carry forward thereafter? And so this is really the intent, is to lift it up, but with partnership with First Five and really through the Learning Collaborative, how do we really embed these programs, not just for the short term, but for the long term, that they're going to be sustainable, not just in organizations, but across systems of care. And then in Medi-Cal, we're really focused on those programs and practices being put in place can be reimbursable through Medi-Cal as well, acknowledging that the fiscal component has created many barriers in the past. And I'll stop there to see if folks have questions. Jackie, does that help kind of address the questions you've had about some of our strategies and populations of focus as it relates to the grant program?
I will give it back to the commissioner. And Commissioner Majors, you had the original question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very thorough, and it sounds great. Just emphasizing also just the parents and the caregivers. Again, most of our family child care providers, our licensed exempt providers across California, have almost a dual impact on the child and the parent. And so penetrating that group is so important in terms of moving things forward. So yes, you answered it well, and I'm excited to see this project move forward.
Great, thank you.
I think to the end too about the data driven, I do want to ask about the 10 million, any reporting requirement or, best practices that come out of these learning communities and the early child specific TA. If that's not included, I think it would be helpful to have some sort of way to say, how do we learn this? So we're not just one-off funding, but we could find a way to perhaps carry it forward.
I think an implementation, I'm not going to assume that's a yes. I hope it's a yes, that we can include in the programming and implementation side of it. I see Commissioner Jimenez is back, and is she? Where she moved? My screen kept moving and had her hand up.
Can I be called on in a little bit? I'm driving and I'm trying to get to an area where there's better reception, so I'll come back if that's okay.
Just for a point of clarification though, on this issue, I think we're might move a little sooner. So if you're driving, Commissioner, want to just make sure.
All right, can you hear me?
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for the nice overview and presentation and the additional clarification provided by state staff regarding this partnership and really the need to further invest in the mental well-being of our children. I just want to stress a couple of points. One is that's great that some of these state initiatives will address the TK population, but we really need to identify additional resources to invest in our 0 to 3. We know that we need to make sure that our children have a positive start from the womb, so to say, from early inception. And a child who is not well mentally, emotionally, socially is not going to thrive academically. And also too, I do look forward to the partnership between the state, between the commission, First Five Association, and then the locals, particularly the locals, because they are the ones who have the connection to the families, the children that we seek to better serve so that our children can thrive, and really helping to kind of develop the strategies that are going to be eligible for this investment if our, pending commission approval, and really focused on, the whole spectrum, not just on the individual and the family, but really looking at how we need to further transform systems to better support our families and our caregivers to assure that children are really excelling and thriving. Thank you.
Thank you. I think to that point, I hope that given what the Tisha said about how to carry it forward, and the point I was trying to make earlier too, is not just carrying forward that particular program, making sure it's sustainable, but how is it embedded in the current early childhood local system? And we know local First Fives are a backbone in many of the communities. So that would be helpful to follow up on, as well as just how are the local First Fives going to be part of that as well. Commissioner Hazen.
Thank you. And really want to echo what everybody has said about the importance of building out a system that can be sustained over the long term to meet the needs of children 0 to 5. And I think Commissioner Jimenez read my mind in really calling out 0, 1, 2, 3-year-olds right before they get to TK, and how critical all of this work for 0, 1, 2, 3-year-olds is to ensure their success in TK and over the long term. So really appreciate that call out, and also the work of staff. So I know when this came to us in committee, I personally had questions about what is our unique value add here, right? We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar initiative. What difference does our $10 million make? And I think I just want to recognize and appreciate the work that was done to identify what is that unique value add we have, right? How can we do this work in a way that makes $10 million potentially as impactful as the billions that will be spent on the programs and on the services? And so really appreciate you coming back to us with exactly what it is, that technical assistance and the learning community that we will be able to fund, support, facilitate to keep this work moving forward. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Rizzo.
I just wanted to value add on Commissioners Jimenez and Hazen. One of the things in the presentation that I wrote down that stuck out to me is, please stop waiting until I'm in crisis to offer support. And to me, the 0 to 3 is being proactive. And when you go 0 to 5, it's more reactive. And we're gonna get more for our money by being in the proactive stage as we are getting in the reactive stage. So I'm very much promoting the proactive stage and the 0 to 3 as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Here, maybe if I could add a little bit of context for some of the work of the CYBHI too. I think that part of what Tisha was clarifying is that there are some work streams that were built to be intentionally in the K through 12 space, and that where it's been possible to make it TK through 12, that's been a part of the effort. There are also other work streams that absolutely are directly inclusive of 0 to 3 and 0 to 5. So for example, one of the things we didn't talk as much about today, it's part of our partnership, but was not necessarily raised as a fiscal item, was the Office of the Surgeon General is developing a trauma-informed training for educators, and it has specific modules for our early childhood educators. And we're really excited about the partnership to help deploy that training to help us all build collectively a more trauma-informed system through the IMPACT program, through partnership with First Five California around that work. So that is just one example, but there are other components, including these evidence-based practices, where it was very explicit that, and this was based on the feedback from our partners, from the think tank, from the working groups, of the very issues you are all raising, which is we've got to have a very strong focus on these in terms of the 0 to 5 if we're going to have a strong prevention agenda. And so that is why early childhood is featured so prominently in the scaling of the evidence-based practices, was based on these reasons that you are lifting up as so important, that partners and stakeholders brought to that process.
Thank you, Melissa. Can I just add on to that? I know that we went in depth at the advisory committee meeting, and the Office of the Surgeon General. I and staff have been, we're actually reviewing the curriculum at the time, super excited. There is a focus on intergenerational caregivers as well as childcare providers. I'm just really excited for it to get going. And thank you for lifting that up. We know that we have are consistently working with Office of Surgeon General and Cal HHS on this, but soon, hopefully we intend to actually roll that out together in partnership with Office of Surgeon General and getting that going. So I appreciate you lifting that up as well. So that lots was talked about, and I didn't get into depth here just because of timing, but I know that we lifted up all the partnerships with at the advisory committee.
To that end, Jackie, is it possible then to have a PowerPoint, a bullets of all of these items? That would be very helpful for us to be able to track. And then going back to Melissa's comment about half of all work streams include early childhood, if it's possible to get that, that would be helpful, including are they shalls or could be early childhood. I think, we're just wanting to keep on top of this issue, keep tracking it. And we are so grateful. I'll speak for myself. I'm so grateful for all the work that Cal HHS has done this is huge. This is huge. You're moving mountains, and you have indicated your connection and support for 0 to 5, as well as you've heard from other commissioners 0 to 3, and taking that whole child, whole family, whole community approach. So we thank you. And with that, I would like to move to
I think Commissioner Albright's background is light, and so Commissioner Albright has hands. It's like she has a light hand on a light background. So
I appreciate it. Just really briefly, Chair Perez, before we take this, I'm very supportive of this, and it's exciting. I really appreciate the focus that the conversation has had around bringing 2-generation approaches, looking at parents, caregivers, as well as children 0 to 3, 0 to 5. I also very much appreciate the focus on the delivery system, Chair Perez, as you focused on, about focusing on early care and education providers, focusing on family resource centers as critical partners in this. I do think that there's an opportunity, and maybe this is an opportunity in the Program and Evaluation Committee, to think about what evidence-based practice looks like. Oftentimes we ask the question of whose evidence is it, and is that truly inclusive of all people that we want to serve? And we don't want to perpetuate inequitable systems by looking at evidence that may not be on all populations. And so I appreciate the components around continuing to be culturally responsive in terms of how we're thinking about data, in terms of how we're thinking about inclusion, and that was the one piece I wanted to say, just as we continue to talk about evidence-based practice in this conversation.
And just for clarity, this workstream is very intentional scaling of evidence-based and community-defined evidence practices for the very reasons that you're raising.
Thank you.
Yes, and I know you've done such a huge job with the think tanks and the stakeholders. Like you had hundreds, I heard, folks, and that was something that I thought was very powerful. So thank you for doing that and making sure that community was defining evidence-based. So I want to open it up to double checking to public comment now, please.
We have Avo Mcpherson from the association. Is that first?
Okay, Avo.
Thanks, Chair Perez. Hello again, commissioners, and hi, Melissa. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to +1 all the comments that Jackie and commissioners raised. The First Five Association is supportive of this item and really look forward to working with First Five California and CYBHI and HHS to ensure that this TA funding support is meeting local needs. And so we are at the ready, and so appreciate the focus and comments on ensuring we're focused on local needs and local evaluations, local evidence, and what parents and families need. So thank you.
Thank you. And I see Francine is teed up. Hi, Francine.
Great. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much, commissioners, for this, and Melissa, so great to see you. I want to thank you all again for this opportunity. Such an exciting prospect for us in terms of the 0 to 3, as I agree with you, in 0 to 5 space. I did want to point out that in terms of, we talk about the superpower for the first 5 state commission, and the superpower for the local commissions, as you all have mentioned, is that we have been doing a lot of this work locally, and really do want to be involved in designing whatever might be happening in terms of the rollout, because even if first 5s aren't funded through these individual programs, what we see our role as in the communities is to help implement an integrated, comprehensive, and collaborative system of information and services to enhance optimal early childhood development. That language might seem familiar to you because it came straight from the Act. And so what has happened sometimes unintentionally is that sometimes by funding certain things and not having it be connected to the local first 5s, we end up losing that gas and that glue role that we have in the local counties. So maybe not all first 5s are focused on this, but those that are and have an area of focus, it feels to me that one of the things to potentially consider is to say, if there is a first 5 in that county, let's look to them to help us really co-create what this TA might look like, because every county is going to be at a different point, and let's support those organizations that are getting funded to get the TA and the support that they need. I know that the first round of funding was for 30 million and got over 130 million requests. So there's going to be a lot of folks that applied that aren't going to be able to participate, but are really interested. So I'm also wondering whether or not there's a way to potentially include those who might want some TA around dyadic care, or around enhance some of the systems things that you all have been talking about that we need in our communities, to be able to make sure that we're having that intensive, integrated, coordinated system of care. So just some food for thought. And I know the association and us counties who've been doing this work would really love to be involved in helping you think through how to make that TA the most effective as possible, and to stretch the dollars the furthest. Thanks for the opportunity.
Excellent points. Thank you. I do hope that first 5 staff will take up Francine's offer as well as Avo's offer to connect on this before all the details are fleshed out. And even before that, I would like to move to approve up to $10 million over 3 years from the Education and Research and Development Fund accounts for early childhood behavioral health.
Commissioner Risso seconds.
So moved by Commissioner Bettis, seconded by Commissioner Rizzo. Jamie, please call the roll.
Katie Albright.
Aye.
Jana Hazen.
Aye.
Elsa Jimenez.
Aye.
Majors.
Aye.
Vivian Velasco Paz.
Aye.
Giannina Perez.
Emphatic aye.
Lori Risso. Lori Risso.
Sure you unmute. Oh yeah.
Okay, we have a pass motion, unanimous vote.
Thank you very much for the partnership and the discussion. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Melissa. Yeah.
Okay, at 1:09, we are going to now move into closed session, where the commission will be consulted with the chief counsel regarding a personal matter. There will be no action that requires further report at this time. We thank you all. We're going to switch to, I believe there's a different link. Is that correct? So everyone go and find your link, hopefully, or I'm going to go look for it too. And
Yes, there is a separate link for the closed session.
And may I ask, may we have a break between this and closed session, please?
What do we think is doable? We probably need at least a few minutes.
So with the rest of the time, with the 3 information items, I think the hope is that we would, to stay on schedule, we'd try to get back to open session by 2:30. And so if we take a break, do you want to just announce that we're going to go back to open session at 2:30?
Did we have a lunch scheduled?
It was in
There-
between. It was now, right? So it says 1 to 2 is the ideal, that we'd have closed session and we'd all grab lunch. Is my
May we have
understanding.
15 minutes before we connect in closed session?
So let's reconvene. Why don't we say 20 minutes just so so we have 1:30. If we can meet back in closed session, that'll give us an hour. And as James is suggesting, then we'll announce we'll come back at 2:30.
That sounds great.
Okay, and if
It's good for
everyone,
everybody else.
does everyone have their link to the other session, the closed session?
Commissioner Perez, who sent that link? I'm looking for it right now.
Jamie,
Yeah, we can send that again. We'll send it.
That would
again
be
right-
awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jamie. Okay, so the link will be at in your inbox. So please go grab some food, take a break, and we'll see everyone at 1:30 with the new link closed session. Everyone else will see you at 2:30. Thank you.